Hey, my name is King. If you don't know who I am, my name is Israel King. I'm a writer, director, and anime commentator on my main channel, King Tannic. Now, if you've been a fan of pop culture for any amount of time, then you surely must have noticed the sudden rise in popularity in anime and manga. Films breaking box office records, series topping the most pirated show of the year chart, and of course, the very apparent fan base that has surrounded it. According to a poll back in February of this year, about 50% of Gen Z watches anime. Now, if you're not Gen Z, it can be kind of hard not knowing anything about this new, sudden, very popular corner in the pop culture zeitgeist. And that's where we come in. King Tannic and the Burnettwork have partnered to bring you the best anime and manga related news show on YouTube. The Otaku Experience is your go-to place to find out the biggest stories of the week in the anime and manga industry. Still not convinced? Try the show out for yourself. The show airs Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time or 5 p.m. Eastern. The Otaku Experience, only on the Burnettwork.
Greetings, Imagination Con. The Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on the John Campea YouTube channel. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies.
There's a company called Hot Toys, and they make these insanely realistic, renderings of characters. They do them for all the Marvel characters or whatever, and they look so much like you. It's disturbing, actually. Like, scary. They look so much like you, but they're tiny. They're like 18 inches or something like that. They actually that's what's crazy about that company is they hand make they carve the mold of, thank you, of the.
That's crazy.
It's wild.
Robservations with Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, Imagination Connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your Master of Fun and Wonder, your Viceroy of Verisimilitude, Robert Meyer Burnett. Call me what you want. It's Midnight Music 60. 60. We've done 60 of these, and you're still here with us. 60. Let's nug it up, says Ron H. Hopefully they're the dankest of nugs. Anyway, you can't do this show by yourself. You got to have your friends. Good friends, powerful friends, knowledgeable friends, charismatic and beautiful friends that billow. Like, she's here. You love her. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Robert. And of course, as you know, I had a power failure a few seconds ago. I'm praying that the power stays on here in New York. Everybody has the AC pumped up. But Robert, it's okay because I'm feeling great tonight, and it is great to be here.
I'm feeling pretty good too. I was at COMICON yesterday, and it was fun. Todd McFarlane just randomly stopped by our table,
Wow,
chatting up a storm with us. You know what? It really did, because the actors can't be there, and so many TV panels. Actually, they promoted a lot of TV shows that they could today. They dropped a lot of trailers. The Daryl Dixon from The Walking Dead? That trailer looks pretty dope. Like he's in France. Yeah. He has to save a kid. I'll watch that. I thought The Walking Dead had no more life in it. I was wrong. The new trailer for One Piece dropped. I'll watch that.
nice.
Just check it out. So it was cool. It felt, I have to say, my first Comic-Con was in 1988. It wasn't my first my first San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Which is weird because it was the first summer I lived in Los Angeles, and I went by myself, and it was still a bunch of old dudes rifling through long boxes of comics, in like the basement of a hotel. and then the convention center was built, and then the addition to the convention center was built, and so it's weird to have been going to Comic-Con over the space. I mean, during the pandemic, you went when they had like the half and half Comic-Con or whatever. Was it last year?
Special edition, yes.
Or it was 2 years ago, because I went last year.
Yeah, it was a special edition. I went to it, and it was definitely different. Different kind of atmosphere, and just, I guess, maybe a sign of the cons we've been having. But that's okay, because cons, as far as I'm concerned, are about meeting up with people that you know and you care about in the community. And you did a lot of that, Robert.
You know, I was there for, I had a panel. So we did our panel. It was a free enterprise 25th anniversary panel, and that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to see people, and then, had a little bit of an impromptu PGS meetup with some folks. I met a lot of people, ran into a lot of people. Nadia's boyfriend, Nadia, Gotham Geek Girl, stopped me, and we were all hanging out. So it was great. And by the way, you know what else is great? To have Lael Rockwell here, the 1/6 scale man. He's here.
How you doing? Hey.
So we're just chatting. I mean, we got Barbenheimer happening, and by the way, it's not just happening; it's happening like gangbusters. They're saying that Barbie might be the biggest opening. It looks like it's the biggest opening of the year, $150 million weekend, and Oppenheimer is going to make $75 million, which is, I mean, it only cost $100 million, or so they say. So people are, and even Mission Impossible is doing well, for its second weekend, and so people are excited about movies. I think original visions like Oppenheimer and the whole Barbenheimer hype, has helped these movies, which has been great. So, and there was a buoyant atmosphere at Comic-Con, even though there's a writer's strike, and it felt like what Comic-Con used to be, which was, it was a bunch of friends running into people and running into one another and chatting. The thing about Comic-Con is with Hollywood, I've been a part of that, the Hollywoodization of Comic-Con, which is fine, but now, people want to go and see the stars, and they want to go see. The thing about Comic-Con, especially in the 90s, was that it was people, your friends, and all you did was hang out and talk to people. You weren't running around from panel to panel going to see whatever, and you would miss out on that. Because after all, conventions were all about, they used to be, when I was growing up, all about meeting like-minded people. And you were there to talk to your friends and have long, rambling conversations about superpowers or whatever you wanted to talk about. And it was definitely, it felt like that yesterday. It was great because you spend your time just hanging out and people are walking by and they stop like, hey, man. And that was what it was all day long. And it was fantastic.
Well, you made a video of the PGS meetup, and I saw a lot of people I recognized, like Sonny Dominguez and Julian Mushkin. Yep. And others, and that was great to see, Robert. And it looked like you guys were having fun. It looked like you were in paradise.
Well, it was, the Marriott, when I started at Comic-Con in 94, I've been staying at the Marriott, this beautiful hotel. And it used to be, when I started going there, $150, $200 a night, back in the mid-90s. Now with Comic-Con becomes so, like, rooms there are like $800 a night. They've just jacked up, and they get it because Hollywood pays for a lot of those hotel rooms. It's unfortunate that at a family event, they're charging really premium prices to stay because you want to stay for 5 days. And that's a huge commitment, just to have a room. And all of downtown San Diego's booked. Elizabeth and I stayed like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, we stayed at an Airbnb, a guy's apartment, and it was fantastic. It was just great. And it was right by the baseball stadium. So you just walk across downtown. But it had a really good vibe. Everybody was having a really good time. Looking at the Mondo booth with the X-Men, the Omega Red statue, or the Omega Red figure, got to get that. It was cool, man. I was having a great time. I'm going back on Sunday.
And I wanted to ask you, I know you had your panel, and your panel was a free enterprise panel?
It was an Inglorious Trexperts panel celebrating free enterprise, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I really would have liked to have been there for that. How are the guys in Inglorious Trexperts? How are they doing?
They're doing really well. They were launching a Kickstarter, so their documentary, 1982, The Greatest Geek Year Ever, they had a panel before our panel, and that that was good. I mean, it was really good. Episode 3 of that drops tomorrow on the CW, and then you can see it for free on the CW app. I'm really happy with the documentary. You know, there was a lot of people in it. I'm glad that I was in the documentary. I'm really proud of that. And they're doing another show that I'm going to be involved with in a much more of a production capacity. So that's exciting. At least I've been asked. I don't know where that's going to go, but we'll see. They just launched a Kickstarter today, and yeah, I'll look on it and see if it's live. But it was great. You know, you know what it was? It was really nice to have the positive vibes out there.
Yeah.
Everybody was excited for new movies in the theater. You know, there wasn't the full-on hate. Even action figure collectors, the community, as Lael can speak to, were excited. I mean, people, look, there might not be things that everybody's excited about, but there was a lot of cool things that dropped. I mean, it was so funny because people were, like, I read somebody complaining about the Sideshow's been having their own convention. I thought they put on a good show. You know, I'm like, it's a toy. You know, they're a distributor. They sell action figures, and they had the great Hot Toys display and all the other things they displayed. They showed their the Kiefer Sutherland Lost Boy figure. I'm gonna get that shit. Come on, man. I'm gonna buy that. So I really felt that for the first time. I mean, I didn't realize I spent so much time on YouTube how negative, you know, it can get. And you know, but lately streaming with you, Lael, and streaming with Anthony, I've been having so much fun. You know, we've been having fun just celebrating the hobby and collecting. And I got my snow speeder in. You know, I got to order the wall mount because I need it. Dude,
Well, you know,
I saw somebody today, actually on Figure Flex Friday. Somebody today actually had their snow speeder up, and they had they had Luke in it, but they had it against the wall because he had it plugged up to his power outlet.
Yeah.
Just for like the lighting, and you can just basically see, you know, from the floor, the distance from where he actually had it from the floor, from the wall, spacing in the room, how big that thing actually was, and when you're thinking about it, and it's just like the sheer transport from, you know, the Netherlands, because I think that's where Jos is, correct? So basically the transport from the Netherlands here, it's like you have to literally be on pins and needles, like just worried about, you know, because how big it is, how many, you know, working parts go into this piece. It's just like getting it over here from the Netherlands. It's like always a worry, but it looks like everyone who's gotten it, I think, you know, Yost has improved on the packaging when it comes to those pieces. So I haven't seen any complaints from anybody about, you know, working parts or damaged pieces or anything like that. But I will tell you, that thing is huge, bro. From what I was seeing so far,
I feel like I should go get it. It's just that I don't know where I would set it down. That's
because it's too big.
I mean, it's so big. I mean, you can't even begin to understand how big it is.
Somebody's going to clip this, you know, right? I'm just letting you know.
You can't even understand how big it is.
Yeah,
it is. But I have to. It's so big. I have to say that what's really cool about it is like any of the parts that might break, like even the front of the laser cannons. Those come as separate pieces, and you put them on. So it's really well packed. In styrofoam. I mean, and then the pieces, it's pretty ingenious how they all go on, and then you can actually take off pieces on the hull and they expose. I mean, it's the only, you know, it's really funny because people have been complaining about how it's not weathered enough, like the painting, and I'm like, well, I mean, first of all, like, if it's gone through a battle, you could weather it, but I just look at it and go, it's in good shape. It hasn't fought against AT-ATs yet. And you know, and you could easily do kind of weathering on it if you wanted to. I mean, if you wanted to weather it the way some people I see weather plastic models, which I have a tendency, I think people have a tendency to over weather things. And they, like the Millennium Falcon, because that is weathered to shit, and X-Wings are weathered. But I mean, and I understand that, but it's like to do a weathering job the way you would if you were a fine scale modeler, you could spend weeks weathering the thing if you wanted to, dry brushing, putting blaster things. I mean, but then it's like I don't know why people are complaining that. Well, I understand people think the orange is a little muted on the orange version, the Rogue 2 version, but I think this thing, every time I walk in here, because it's right by my door, it's sitting. Every time I walk in here, every single time, I look at it and go, "That is the fucking coolest thing I've ever seen."
Yeah, it looks pretty. I mean, just from seeing it, today, for the first time in person, or just basically from pictures and stuff like that. But just seeing how, compared to everything else that was in the room, how big that snow speeder was. It was like, yo, like literally, the worry had to been there as far as getting it transported over here. You know what I mean? And just so many things, intricate parts, like the cockpit is lit, it lights up.
Oh yeah.
It has, two, basically you have like a compartment in the back with, for the other, figure if you wanted. And here's the thing, it's incredible because I was thinking, like, if I was to get it, I have the snow speeder loop, but I also have the sideshow snow speeder loop that I can use as DAC in the back if I wanted to repaint it.
What do you mean if you wanted to? You have to do that.
Yeah,
I was thinking about, I need another snow speeder pilot.
It's the spacing, bro. Like literally, I mean, I always talk about the spacing that I have down here, but for something of that magnitude, it would not work. Like it literally would not work down here. It's not something that I can actually put in this room anywhere. But
I think with that wall mount, you can have the wall mount come out and come over the top. Like you've got enough room, dude. It's so badass. I mean, it's so. I feel like I should go get it. It's just I don't know.
I'll live vicariously. I would live vicariously through you, bro. Because that thing is, I just seeing it was incredible.
What's really neat is the underneath. It's got landing gear. So the landing gear the landing gear flops out, but the doors that it close up are really nice. They're really sturdy. So they stay up, and when you open them, the landing gear pops right out, and you can set it on the landing gear, or you can set it on these lucite. It comes with these weird kind of. It'll stand up. You can. But to me, it's you got to get that wall.
See, I would get it just to bury it in snow, bro. I would actually go buying just pounds of like fake snow.
Well, that's what because you live in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but
you get snow. Imagine the photographs you can have in the wintertime. You and Toya. The
problem is, I have a problem with taking figures out to the environment, bro. I just can't do it. I can't. I have a problem with taking them outside. So I create the environment within my own personal space. Taking these figures outside, putting them on the ground, put them in snow. Because the thing is, bro, that one lean and that thing falls over. You scratch that head sculpt. It's like, it's not going to work. So for me, I just have a problem with doing it. So I keep it in home. But I live vicariously for through those who do it. That's it. I won't do it. I just won't. I won't do it, bro. Okay. Man, bro, if we pay almost $300 now, soon to be over $300 per figure, you know what I mean? Like you're thinking about that. Like how many figures you have? Like I have like over. Oh my God, bro! I don't even want to think about how much money I've spent in this room. Like literally. I don't. It hurts to think about it. Like I just don't want to do that, bro.
You can't even. I mean, I was just thinking about. I was just thinking about like my X-Men omnibuses. Now, before they made omnibuses, they made like for instance, I have the new X-Men, the entire run of new X-Men in 3 hardcovers. Before they made the omnibuses, Marvel made these hardcovers.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at these hardcovers, and every time they come out with an omnibus that has the multiple hardcovers in one book, I'm like, I gotta get the omnibus. And the new X-Men omnibus is $125 unless you buy it at Cheap Graphic Novels or Amazon. So they just reprinted it again, and I'm like, because I've rearranged because I'm building the set in anticipation of doing this new show, the Imagination Connoisseur show. So I was redoing my X-Men omnibuses in order, like in the order of release, and I'm like I already have these. I already have these hardcovers of the new X-Men run. Beautiful hardcovers. They're just not omnibus. And I keep going to Jem Mint's channel, and I look at Jem Mint's channel because he's got all the fucking Marvel omnibus, all all lined up, and I'm like, I don't need the new but you know what? I do though. So then
you
it was.
Say you don't need it, but then you do need it.
See, because it was like I had the House of M, and then they've come out with the omnibus, and I'm like, I had to get it. I had to get that.
Yeah.
And the new X-Men one, I'm like, oh god, I had to get it. Because I wanted to look on the shelf. It's so stupid. So I just started calculating how much money I have behind me in omnibuses.
Tobar, basically, because he was at San Diego Comic-Con, he actually got Toya the Bitterroot omnibus, and he got it signed by both the writer and the artist for her. So the artist or the writer, he signed her name in both English and in French. Wow. It was dope. It was pretty dope.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so he was basically there. I mean, it looks like, from what I've seen, the pictures of individuals at Comic, and also I think what is his name, John from InArt was there as well.
Yeah.
So he's there. He was basically, and I think the pictures went up for. Did you see the Man of Steel?
Yeah.
Not the Man of Steel, but yeah, the pictures went up for that. But yeah, just seeing everybody, and it looked like there was, everybody. I think it's what Comic-Con is taking on a new shape, or a totally different face, where people aren't just there. I mean, they're there, of course, for the exhibits. They're there, of course, for comics, the panels, seeing cosplays, pretty much they're there for all that. It's just the experience. But also now it's like a meet and greet for everyone who's only talked over social media, only seen each other, through different platforms. It's a meet and greet for them now. And it's become like this really, really big, and it's always been like a social event, but I think it's even more of that now. In the wake of everything that's actually happening, it is a place. It's become like a private sanctuary, and to have it every year, the thing is, like, I've never been, like, I haven't been to San Diego Comic-Con yet, and that's the thing is, like, I want to make sure that I get there at least once in a lifetime. But the way we experience things even here at the New York Comic-Con, which I got to tell people out there, y'all think that, and a lot of people are like, yo, New York Comic-Con, look, we put on over here. Like, New York Comic-Con goes off. They need to experience it. If you think San Diego goes off, we do the same thing over here. A lot of people don't shine a light on what goes on in New York, but a lot of stuff happens over there. It's very, very pleasant. It's an amazing experience. But I just think that we need to, like, it's become a huge social gathering of not just content creators or people who follow us or people who follow different channels, but again, like, we're experiencing it now, whereas the actors and the writers are currently on strike. They're unified through this. I was even watching earlier today, even over there in Europe, the actors are basically, unifying in solidarity, with, the actors here. But because of that, it's forcing now Comic-Con to take a totally different shape. And it's the thing is, you see that under pressure right now, there's always things that, you can, always things that will happen. People can, put on different displays. They can, it's like a last ditch effort to pull something together, and it comes together really nice. So,
well, I have to say, you brought up something that's really interesting. Like, one of the things about Comic-Con that made it fun is you go to see people you only see once a year from all over the place. And less and less people over the years were coming, and my circle of friends, they've been coming for so many times. People were falling away, but because of YouTube now, I have a whole group of new friends and new people that I didn't know 4 or 5 years ago. And like you pointed out, I can't walk 5 feet at Comic-Con without, if you want an ego boost, to just be on YouTube and then go to a convention and walk around, because we're like, hey man, you're so-and-so, I watch you all the time. And it's so fun. It's so nice and so gratifying. And it really is, there's a whole new energy, because it's, what we're doing is like putting on a Comic-Con all year long.
Yeah.
And so to now have people, if you were in a bad mood, just go to Comic-Con. People are like,
You know what? It's
dude, I got to
crazy
tell you,
because-
there's a Todd McFarlane just stopped. We're hanging out last night at this table. Todd
Yeah.
McFarlane just stopped at our table, and he didn't just say hello. He came and like held court at our table for a while. I'm like, dude, I'd never met him before, so I'm just talking to him
What's
about
up?
all kinds of stuff and toys and how. And he was totally effusive and just let me tell you about this stuff. And I took a picture on Instagram. I'm like, I'm leaning back, and he's leaning forward on the table, and he's just hanging out. And I'm like, oh my god, it's Todd McFarlane.
Wow, bro, like it's always the experience, man. Like the last time we went and we met David Mack, I think that was for me, man, I was blown away because like he's, you know, been an inspiration for a lot, you know, someone who like, you know, is like I idolize this dude because of his art. He's incredible. And to sit there and have a conversation with him, see how down to earth he is, man. This is like, yo, this is incredible. So it's like when you get a chance to talk to these people, man, like it's like an experience in its own. I was sitting up here thinking, I was laughing to myself because you were talking about how when you walk around Comic-Con, you know, people are greeting you and, you know, like the ego boost and like that. Like, oh, I know you're. I was in my head though. I was thinking like, you know, because like you're the most interesting man in the world. I was thinking like there was probably a whole bunch of kids walking around. It's like, do you know my mom? Yo, do you know my mom? Do you know?
Okay, it's funny that you say that because so I was talking. Well, this is not a so I did a show this morning where I interviewed the subject and the filmmaker behind this documentary. Well, before we went on the show, the filmmaker Raphael Sabarge, who was in Risky Business, he's one of Tom Cruise's friends in Risky Business.
Mm-hmm.
I said to him, I got to tell you, you and I used to hang out, and he was like, what? And I go, 30 years ago, your agent was my girlfriend, Suzanne Bennett, and he was like, no way, and I'm like,
wow,
yes. Yes. and it was just such a weird, it's such a weird thing, because when you've been someplace for a long period of time, that's what happened. Like I can drive around. So in Los Angeles, most of Los Angeles is inside of 3 freeways: the 101, the 405, and the 10. It's almost like it's not really a triangle, but I call it a triangle. And I could take you on a tour of every building, like that building, over there, every place I slept with a woman.
wow.
It could be like back in 91, it was. I could tell you stories, and not to be self-aggrandizing, but it's just like when you were someplace in your 20s and 30s, you know, before you got married. I mean, I got married when I was 33, and but before that, you know, it was 15 years of exploratory. And it was Hollywood. It was LA. So it was 15 years of partying and movies and craziness. And so, but it gets to the point where you literally drive down the street and go, And also you lived in a bunch of different places, you know, you have a whole, there's different eras of people too. There's different eras of people, like who you were living with and who you were dating defined who your friend group was at the time. So, and I think about it. I don't live, you know, I live an hour outside of LA now. And, but living there, and you know, I've been here for so long. I've been here for 35 years, which to me is crazy. And when you think about that, 35 years that's elementary school, junior high, and high school times 2. You know, so that's a whole, you've grown up twice in addition to growing up. So it's a long period of time, and it's so weird because there are very few people that I knew 35 years ago that I know now, because people leave. You know, they leave the business, they get the hell out of LA. But when you're someplace for 35 years and you've stayed relatively in the same what you're doing, you end up meeting anybody. You know, they talk about 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. So when you go to Comic-Con, you end up knowing half those people from some way, shape, or form, especially if you've been in the business for a long time. And it's so weird to think, because you don't think of yourself as being old. Like when I think, and also what's another thing about that is like, I'm and my mom always points this out. I've been interested in the same thing since I was 5 years old. Science fiction, fantasy, comic books, action figures, model kits. It hasn't changed. So literally for half a century, I've been interested in the same shit. And we just have more of it, and we get the best of it now. The hardcover comics you get are better. The action figures are better. The model kits are better. Everything is better. It's the same. It's just bigger and better. And it's
bigger and better.
And we're getting the best of. So it's like, if you're interested in it, as I was when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, now it's like, oh, Luke's land speeder used to be this plastic thing that it had spring-loaded wheels. Well, now it's a $600 Jazz Inc. Luke's land speeder
mini replica. It's literally a mini replica of something that we've bro.
And so it hasn't changed. And like I gotta tell you what. So I bought the Cyborg hot toy today. I bought the Cyborg hot toy. And because I was saving up for it, I'm like, I because it's Cyborg, and I love Cyborg, and even though I always think of him as Teen Titans, I needed that figure, and I hadn't got it, so I go to check out, and they're like, you've received a Captain Marvel figure for free, and I'm like, wait, what? First of all, I already had a Captain Marvel figure, but if someone's going to give you a $260 hot toy figure for free, you take it, because the body alone. You can customize, you can use it for whatever other figure. But I'm looking at this, I'm like, this has to be a mistake. I thought I pressed the wrong button. So there's Cyborg, and there was Carol Danvers, a $260 figure for free. And I'm like looking at my thing going, what's the catch?
Nope. It was part of the deal.
They gave it, and I'm like,
Louis Labitz, it happened to him today as well.
Really? Because I thought something was wrong. I'm like,
nah.
Because I mean, for those of you, for all the hate Brie Larson gets, that's a really great hot toy figure. Comes with a Flurkin. She's got her Air Force bomber jacket. It's a great figure, and I already have
Mohawk, light up. Yeah, definitely. It's an amazing piece to have in your collection. I have both. I have from Endgame, and I have it from her solo film.
Well, that's the thing. The different head sculpt. So now I can display, because I have her with the long hair and the bomber jacket. But now to have the flying version with the light up Mohawk and all that. So it's like, I mean, I got this free. I'm like, do people hate Brie Larson that much?
Yeah, they do. They do, bro. It's sad, bro. Sad. But I mean, literally. But you know what? It's the simple fact that, bro, they're sitting on a bunch of figures that they can't get rid of. To save their life, bro. They had it was the mix and match, where if you basically mix and match, they were giving away the holographic Mark the Iron Man figure. They were giving that away as well. You can get that for free. But it's a lot of these figures that they're sitting on that they can't get away if they can't give away if you pay them to. Like they can't give it away. So, well, with this one, especially with the first Captain Marvel figure, it's been sitting for so long. I think it's been sitting almost as long as, or even longer than that Thanos from Endgame or Infinity Wars that sat for a while, but now it's gone. So that's been sitting for a minute, and they're trying to get rid of them. So yeah, like it was definitely a deal. It was a come up if you got, because I already have 2 Captain Marvels in my collection, actually 3, because I needed, when the first one came out, I got the first one, and I got like just the simple version, like the regular version, and the standard version, without the flight jacket, because I already had it, and I knew I wanted to display it a certain way. But yeah, it's a great figure, bro. Like I love it, even though it has like restraint, like the articulation isn't there, but so what? It's still decent.
It's a great figure. Well, here's another thing. So I'm looking at this mix and match deal. So for those of you who don't know, the Hot Toys thing was, if you buy a Hot Toy, they'll give you a mix and match, and you'll get one, or buy one get one half price. So I'm looking, I'm like, I really can't afford to buy a bunch of Hot Toy figures right now, and I'm like, but I'm looking at the mix and match. So I got 6 figures, and I got 2 basically $400 off. You know, because I got $400 off, but I only I made them all pay in time. You know, can pay every month.
Yeah.
And I just set the times when I'm paying them differently. So like the 10th, the 20th, the 26th.
Yep.
So I basically bought 6 Hot Toys figures, but got $400 off the total. So that was almost like getting 2 figures for free.
2 figures for free.
And I'll just pay it off over the next, 4 months or something.
They had some. They definitely had some amazing deals, bro. It was just I think it was the reveals that were kind of a sort of a letdown, but I mean, who cares? I mean, there were a few there, like you said, there was the Stormtrooper and the Dewback that I liked. Hopefully
awesome.
They'll release that.
I thought Hot Toys already put that out.
Well, no, Sideshow put that out.
Okay.
Sideshow actually had a version. They released theirs a while ago, and then Hot Toys finally decided that they were going to actually release theirs. So it was a few items that are out there. I'm just like you. I'm excited for that David from the Lost Boys, because I was thinking like I can actually have him posed up next to Morbius, because I'm getting that as well.
Right.
So I mean, the thing is, there were so many different things that were going on with this con. I think the problem was expectations. A lot of people had expectations for something that Sideshow never told them that they were going to deliver on. So if you set high expectations for something, then of course you're going to be let down. And us as content creators for like the past 2 weeks have been telling people, lower your expectations. Don't get too excited thinking that they're going to release certain things, because they never gave you a hint. Hot Toys never even gave you a hint. And keep in mind, Toy Fair exclusive, or actually the Hot Toys Summer Showcase, is next week.
Right.
So that's when you're going to see more from them. They were holding back. They weren't trying to give you everything. They were holding back on a lot of things. The only thing that they showed people so far was, again, the Dewback, I think it was the 2 figures from the Mandalorian. I think it was the 2, I forget the way the
male and female Mandalorian, the generic Mandalorian figures.
Yeah, those. You got a chance to see the Death Star. That's
a dope figure, the Death Squad Commander or whatever.
So that was there. So there were a few things that they were.
And how about the Revenge of the Sith rooted hair in art killer?
Yeah. See, here's the thing. So
Artem is going, what are you guys talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I'm not going to get every figure, but I will get the female the generic one. But I wasn't happy that they're releasing some of these Mandalorian figures without head sculpts, or at least the ability to take the head off and put a head. I'm not asking for perfection, but like with one, I have one figure that's supposed to be a figure from let's say the last season, and I can't remove his head, although he was a main character. And I guess they're going to re-release it, but I just want his head sculpt. I'd like to use that, and I did like seeing the whole parade of Mandalorians. I'm gonna get those Mandalorian figures, but come on, guys, give me a head sculpt. It could just be a generic head sculpt.
They could do something. The problem is the simple fact that it's the same song and dance. We don't know whether or not these figures are going to end up in purgatory or not. If they're going to release them, we don't know, because they always do this. So it's like, okay, you RSVP for them and thinking that there's going to be a possible release, and none of them actually see light of day. It's always been a constant thing. They got to start delivering on some of these promises. And when I say promise, is that when you show these figures at con and you basically show people the prototypes, you're getting people hyped and warmed up for something that the expectation is there from the receive. So you're making a promise when you do that. You don't think you are, but you're making a promise that the possibility of releasing that figure is high. So when you don't do it, it's like, oh, come on, man. Like, literally, is this another thing? So now it's like a cry wolf scenario. Well, people aren't going to believe it until they see it.
And what about the fact, and correct me if I'm wrong, they re-released the Armorer?
That was pissed me off.
There's no head sculpt with it, right?
No.
So, come on, guys.
Yeah. The only thing I can think that they're doing with that is probably releasing it now with the double jointed elbows, double jointed knees, and you can see with the actual armor, like the actual armored helmet itself, it's a little bit more gold
Mhm.
than, it's not like a muted gold. It's more gold now than what it was before. Even with the chest plates, it's more metallic. So you can actually see. So I'm guessing that there's going to be a 2.0 version if they release it, because they may not. That's what I'm saying. Like it's there, but we may not see these figures released. And that's what I'm saying. Like for anybody who's hopeful, just sort of like temper your expectations until you actually see it happen. And that's just the way I was. I looked at it. I thought, okay, for a release or for what they're doing right now, as far as the con, it looks pretty good. It's not the best con they ever done, but I mean, who cares? It is what it is. I mean, some people were actually there for Steal the Deal or like some of the warehouse finds, stuff like that. But as far as the figure releases, just temper your expectations. If it happens, it happens. Don't even.
I've seen some people on YouTube actually remove the head, from the armor and some of those other
Yeah.
figures that
Mhm.
you're not really supposed to remove it. But if I can actually do it and find a head sculpt for her, I'll just find one of Emily Swallow. She is the armorer,
Mhm.
and see if I can find something that's similar. I know it's her, right? It's not going to be anybody else playing that character, I imagine.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
But half of the fun is being able to do things like this with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, that figure, I don't know, I can't remember his name.
Axe
Um,
Wolves.
Thank you. Of course I immediately got that. I knew I wanted
Yeah.
that, but I
Yeah.
just honestly feel like they could do a little bit better when it comes to some of these head sculpts, because we want to take the helmets off. We want to take them off and have them put it underneath their arm, or put it there and then somebody's pointing to something. Like, we want to do a lot of that fun stuff with it, and you can't when it's attached. I just think they need to do a little bit better with those.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to admit something. And this is, I'm going to admit this just to you guys. I don't want anyone else to know. So it's just going to be to you. I'm telling you this. So I am not a fan of the Toy Fair exclusive Neon Tech Iron Man figures. I felt no need to get them.
Yeah.
Never was going to get. I thought they were kind of stupid until this year.
You bought one. Don't tell me.
I'm going to get it though. The Toy Fair exclusive Neon Tech from this year, the 2023 one that they showed with the multicolors.
Did they really show that, bro?
Yeah. I'm looking for I'm like, fuck these Neon Tech things. I think they're so stupid. They're not. You can't even pick them up without leaving fingerprints all over them. I don't even know. And the whole thing about the Iron Man, the Hot Toys Iron Man figures, especially the diecast figures, are the greatest engineered toys in the history of toys. Mm-hmm. There are no better toys than the people. If you buy one Hot Toy figure and you like Iron Man, any of the Iron Man diecast figures are the most impressive toys ever engineered. I mean,
what about the classic suit? What about that classic suit Iron Man with the Tony Stark head sculpt?
Come on, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the comic version?
The comic version,
bro. Orgasm inducing.
Yeah, bro. Definitely.
I mean, and but I looked at the Neon Tech and I'm like, I don't know why. Maybe it's because the one thing, because I love Japanese robots and monsters, and if you give me something that looks like it came out of a super robot like Grandizer or Mazinga or Raideen or Getter Robo G or something, 70s Japanese diecast, if it looks like that or Pacific Rim, I'm like, I gotta have that. I gotta have that.
I know it's impossible. I know it's not likely, but I still am dreaming of a fully die-cast Mandalorian figure. I know he's not metal. I know that, but I want them to make one.
Somebody might do like the Japanese make these really cool like samurai versions of stormtroopers and Vader, and they did a samurai Boba Fett. They could do a Mandalorian. But they are metal. They're die-cast. They're cool.
I would love that, and I think it's about time. Like I just think it'd be so fun, and I'd even take, even if it wasn't 1/6, I'd take a smaller version. But yeah.
Boy, I've wanted a girl to say that my whole life. I don't know, it just popped into my head. I had to say it. I have no filter. But no, I mean, I don't think they're not 6 scale either. They're smaller. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's funny because, Lael, I think that there's a problem. There's a problem in fandom. And I think for the viewers out there, maybe they can opine on this as well. And I think YouTube is to blame. somehow we have forgotten about just what an amazing era of cool shit we live in.
Yeah.
And when it comes to these action figures, it's like the stuff that we're getting. Now, I'm not saying we should just take everything we get and be happy.
Nah,
But
I mean,
I
you
also-
can have opinions, but yeah. go
I'm
ahead.
also saying we are getting some cool shit.
Man,
I mean,
so much cool
across
shit,
the
bro.
board. We're finally getting a 350th scale Klingon battle cruiser from Star Trek VI, Gorgon's battle cruiser, with the
Yeah.
photo etch parts. I've always wanted one. They never made one. They made a Star Trek VI version that you could paint, but it didn't come with a kit and it wasn't modified. It was just a repaint of a kit that had already been released. We're now getting one. We're getting anything you want is coming out some way. And yet we're always bitching and moaning, complaining. Think about what Hot Toys has already made, what InArts is making, what So-So Toys is making. There's so many great things that we can get our hands on now. I mean, whether it's 6-scale replicas of arcade games, whether the Star Trek figures that X06 is putting out. I mean, that Shran figure that dropped, Anthony got one and got Locutus. I mean, these figures are
Bro,
awesome.
That Kira, did you see that Kira, bro? That
Yeah.
figure looked so sexy. It did. It looked amazing, bro. It did. It definitely looks
It's on
amazing.
pre-order, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
up for pre-order now.
Yeah.
I ordered it.
Yeah, it's definitely up for pre-order. It looks so good, man. Like, I mean, X06 is killing it, bro.
And
Like, they're really
Anthony
killing
always
it.
says that people always bitch and moan and complain, and they do. Everybody's bitching and
it's-
moaning and complaining.
Bro, but you know what? This is the way I see it right now, which is crazy. I'm like, if we didn't get that, I'd be worried. Because the thing is, it's the territory. I come to expect it now. The level of complaints that we actually get, it's something to be expected. Now, the thing is, when you complain with reason, and it is, you know, if you do it and with a level of respect, you know, if you're cordial about it, then that's different. Yeah, because again, like, we're not gonna like everything. Just like I told everybody, I mean, we got that Anakin Skywalker. You know what I mean? Anakin that, you know, Hot Toys decided to release with the rooted hair.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that.
Contrary to what you believe on, everybody, I'm skeptical about it because I'm like, you know, literally the hair,
Mhm.
you have to be careful with it. And if they package it the wrong way, it's not going to come out right. InArt did such an incredible job with making sure that the head sculpt was secure a certain way that when you take it out of the container, the hair is maintained.
Yes.
If they wrap it in that stupid plastic like they always do, it's going to mess that hair up. And again, the way Sideshow had it displayed had me worried because it was real. And again, it's not their fault because they can only do what they can. But it's the simple fact that it just looked frizzy. And I'm like, over time, how is it going to look? The head sculpt now is incredible. That was a 10 out of 10. That was Hayden Christensen at his finest.
Dude, that head sculpt
Was incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah, bro. And I know a lot of people are happy because it's not an exclusive. It's
Right.
not listed as an exclusive.
Yeah.
So you can actually get it once it comes out. I don't know how many are going to be there. It might wait list after so long, whatever. But again, you know, they're calling it their top tier. So again, it's if they succeed, you know, whatever. But there were some people complaining, but there were some people that had really interesting discussions about it, and it was cordial. But then you have a lot of people that just complain just to complain, and are just following this whole trend. So it's just, you know, we come to expect it now, to whereas I don't complain about the complainers. I just sit and watch. You know what I mean? I just sit and watch, and I'm like, okay, let's see where there's some valid points, or if there are some points that you're just throwing a dart at the wall just to see if it actually stays. So I don't know. It is what it is. Bro.
I picked up the Chosen one, so any Anakin with hair I'll buy. It doesn't make a difference to me what the hair looks like. I'm just like, I want more and more versions of him, and I'll take it. So I like that one. So, you know, I'm not filling in with the majority of people and what they think about it, but I just like that it was real hair. At least that's what it seems like it's going to be.
They're using that, and the thing is, I think the test is going to be for those who got their hands on that Wonder Woman. You know what I mean? That's going to be the test market to see how that wool hair works before you get Anakin. So If that comes out okay, then yeah, I know a lot of people are probably, and there's skepticism in every figure, but that one, it was just like, it was a surprise that they did that. So
And I'm going to pose him so like he's putting his hands through his hair like that. Like, this is why I like it. You can't do that when it is the sculpted hair. It's like if you can just do that, and it's like yeah.
I think that the highlight for me, honestly, the highlight of this con, first was that classic suit Iron Man.
Yes.
I saw that and I was like, yeah, I'm in on that. The dewback, of course, with the trooper. And the Death Star gunner, or the Death Star, what is it? What did they name it? They gave it a different name. It's not the Death Star gunner. It's the, hold on a second. I think I got it right here. It's the, hold on. I had it here just for, here we go. It's the, let's see here.
If I could put a little fan next to him and I could make his hair billow, I'd be incredible. Be very happy about it.
That'd be incredible. That definitely would. Oh yeah, it's the Death Star Trooper detention. It's the Death Star Trooper and detention unit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the detention block control console. So yeah.
Yeah, but
so that was one.
If I could manage that, Lael.
What, the hair? To have it billow? That would be incredible. Hold up. Did you actually see the MODOK as well?
No, I didn't.
Oh my. No, okay. That MODOK is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's better than the MODOK in the movie.
Yeah. Like it's yeah.
Oh my god.
And it's a 6 scale MODOK. The thing's huge.
Yeah.
What?
It's
it is
huge.
You didn't see it?
No, I haven't seen it. Can you?
Let me find. I'm looking for the pictures. Like,
if you go to Sideshow and go under the con or go under the reveals, you should be able to see it there coming soon.
Well, I'm there. I mean, I'm looking at the I'm on the Sideshow site looking at the. It just says the latest. Sideshow Con. Watch now. So you have to go through all the freaking videos.
Go to where it says coming soon.
Where does it say that? That's what I'm looking.
So when you go in, if you basically go into the con, you'll see at the very bottom where it says just revealed. So if you actually click on the Sideshow Con itself, scroll all the way down.
Okay, I just want to say that I just came across something that I have not seen before that I have to have.
What is it?
I can't believe somebody made this, and I kind of feel bad about buying it.
What is it?
I got to show this. I have to have this. I'm looking at this and I'm like, how could I have not seen this? There's a 6 scale here. I'm just going to put it up. There's a 6 scale statue. You have to be a Twin Peaks fan.
Oh.
But there's a 6 scale figure of the dancing little person that's in the Red Lodge.
Oh, for real?
It's like, I'm looking at this going, how did I mean, someone's gonna say like that's offensive. I'm like, not if you're a Twin Peaks fan. It's not. I mean, look. Okay, here it is. Let's just here so you can see it. Let me hang on so you can see what I'm talking about. I mean, I mean. I have to have this. I had no idea somebody was making this. But I need to get that. I have to have this. I have to have it. Wow. I feel bad though. I'm like,
why?
Oh my god.
You feel bad. It's going to be available, so there's no reason to feel bad about it, bro.
I guess not.
Right, it's getting made. It's getting made for someone to buy, so it's a good thing.
So are you getting are you actually getting the life-size Anzellan?
I looked at it, but no, because I already have a life-size Anzellan.
What about the life-size Grogu in the new Pram?
The life-size Grogu is so dope.
I was considering that it's the newer Pram.
Yeah.
It's the different hover, hovercraft.
You're going to get
it.
I
was considering getting that. Yes.
You're going to get it. I already know you are. You're a Grogu fan, so you're going to get
it. Yes, I'm going to get it. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. But nah, every like I said, there was some, and I even, to be quite honest, I I am definitely a fan of the like the crystallized relic statues. The Han Solo and Carbonite is decent. The R2 is decent. The C3PO was decent. I like the way those came out. You know what I mean? So they look good to me. Like I love seeing where it's like, you know, something that looks like it might have been like partially destroyed. And to me, I think this like the artistry there is incredible. It's by Arsham Studios. It's the crystallized relic statues. They're pretty good. Like when I saw that, I was like, yo, can you imagine if Han Solo was never freed from Carbonite and just stayed in that thing for a long time?
Gosh, it would be terrible.
Yeah, right. And it's the way this looks. It's like, wow, that's just the way it would probably look.
First of all,
yeah.
This is for you. I mean,
yeah.
Come on.
Let's mold up.
Oh my gosh.
Like, how insane is this 6-scale figure?
Mhm.
It's so disturbing.
Yeah, right.
The face is so disturbing.
Yeah, right.
Oh my goodness gracious. Wow.
Yeah, right. Rob, you would get that just because.
Dude, it's so insane that I have to have it. It's so.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
I don't even know. Oh, poor thing.
I mean, how can you not want that? It's so creepy. I don't even know if I can have this thing in my room.
Creepy. It's really creepy, and it's shocking almost. It's shocking.
So shocking. But hey, it's MODOK. But see, that's the thing. I look at this stuff and I'm like, what? Why are people disappointed? There's some. I mean, the crazy shit that they're making is not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not disappointing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I have to say, the entire Guardians of the Galaxy team in their costumes.
Yeah.
That was great.
It looks good.
It looks good.
It definitely looks good. But here's the thing: is it's like again, bro. Like the fear is whether or not they're going to release these pieces. That's the thing, because they do this every year. Like they still have the rest of the Inquisitors up for or they just have them sitting there coming soon.
Yes.
They haven't released them yet. I'm like, come on.
And it has been over a year, hasn't it?
Yeah, like what are you
March or
doing?
April of last year, and they came out with that really powerful photo of the four of them kind of
With
parading
Vader.
towards you, like they were coming for you. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, wow, this just they just sold me all 4 figure, or 5 actually, maybe 5 figures. Oh, hi, sweetheart.
Come on, that's life size. Who's not going to want that?
Hi, sweetie.
I want.
And he has the chainmail thing underneath him. Hi, sweetheart. Are you protected? You feel pretty good in your new little pram. You feel good. Look at
Wow.
you, little sweetie.
Wow.
You know
I mean, it's like literally, man. I mean, this for what Sideshow did. I mean, they gave you something. You know what I mean? I was just, again, I'm one of the biggest things is like why, you know, I know the answer already. You know why they weren't basically in attendance at San Diego, and a lot of it has to do with like space, paying for the space. It's a lot of money, man, and have to move figures there and then move them out and stuff like that. They got tired of paying for it. They saw how successful the Sideshow Con has been the last couple of years, decided to do it themselves.
He looks a little older here too. He looks like he's a few more years on him. Little sweetheart, little darling.
And then, okay, I want you to weigh in on something. Then, I want you to weigh in on something, and I want you to tell me what you think of this. And because there's the I need to hear the answers to this. This.
Yes.
The Mandalorian and Grogu 6-scale figure set.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the figures are fine. That's not what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is what they're sitting in.
Of course.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get that?
No,
Yes.
I don't think we are.
Yes.
I can't imagine Hot Toys has teased so many vehicles.
I know,
And it's going to cost around
unless they do it during
$100
Summer
million.
Spring
No. It's going to be around $800.
No way.
It's gonna
Yes,
be more.
way.
It's gonna be way more.
It's going to be more.
It's going to be more
It's gonna be at
expensive.
least
I think it's
12.
going to be $1,500.
It's
I
possible,
would
but
say
I don't think it's
12.
going to be more than twice the size of the Razor Crest. I don't think they're going to make it more than twice the size of the Razor Crest.
Oh,
Well, no,
What-
the
what do
Razor
you think
Crest
is-
the Razor Crest is way bigger.
Yeah, it's basically a
True,
way
but-
bigger ship. Because that was like a carrier. This is just like a starfighter itself, so it's definitely going to be smaller. But
They've
I would say-
they've never done anything like this.
yeah, I would say at the most it'd probably be about 12, if anything, 12 or 13. I'm not really sure. Low mark 18. I mean, or 800. That's like almost damn. That's what the DeLorean price. So yeah, this is going to be
It's
bigger
bigger.
than that DeLorean. So
And it lights
Are
up.
you sure it's going to be bigger?
if they, what'd you say?
Are we sure it's going to be bigger?
Oh man, did you see that thing in person?
It's huge. But
You
you know,
mean
n- now
the
having
real
it's bigger. It's bigger than this. It's bigger than the snow speeder. It's got
Yes,
much
I
a
have
much
seen
wider
the
wingspan.
real one. I've seen the real one, yes, and the Mandalorian experience. But I don't know if it's bigger than the Razor Crest. Honestly, I don't know.
What
It
this?
is-
No.
Oh, no,
It's not. It's not bigger than, because they'll never make the Razor Crest. This right here is a 6 scale. This is a 6 scale version of the N1 Starfighter. This is the 6 scale version right here, which you're looking at from Hot Toys. This is what they've teased last year. So again, I don't know if they're going to make it or not. Mario seems to think that they won't. I'm almost erring on that side because they've had a chance to do it, and I think that window of opportunity is closed.
So, do you think it'd be as big as like the Jabba the Hutt's barge?
Well, you got to remember, like, this is different though.
But
This is-
yeah.
This isn't like Haslab or anything like that. This is Hot Toys doing this.
Okay.
This is like basically full 6 scale. So this thing is going to be huge because you're able to put a 6 scale figure inside of the actual cockpit with a 6 scale version of Grogu right behind him. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this thing is going to be pretty big. And for people who've seen it at San Diego Comic-Con already, they were saying the same thing. That's why they were skeptical about whether or not it's ever going to be released, because it's way too big. You know what I mean? This is almost as big or even bigger, Rob, than the Snowspeeder.
It's the wingspan's way bigger than the snow speeder.
Yeah.
The
So
snow
that's
speeder
what I'm
has a
saying.
snubbed
Like,
out. I mean,
Yeah.
look, it's the Jazzing snow speeder. For those of you, so the snow speeder's 6 scale. It's hard to carry.
mhm.
Like, it's hard to pick up and move because it's almost a square. It's 3 feet by 3 feet. So it's, when you're holding it up, you're like, it's really difficult to carry.
Yeah. So
But
that
it's-
thing's going to be huge. But speaking of Haslab, bro, did you see what they announced today?
Oh my! Now here's the thing: I don't collect 3 3/4 inch figures, but I love
Man.
spaceships.
Yeah, bro.
Give me some
That
fucking
thing-
spaceships,
Looks fucking amazing, bro.
dude. Let's show, if people haven't seen it. Let me call
that
it.
thing looks fucking amazing, bro.
Dude, and it's already halfway funded. So,
Yeah.
let's see. Let me go get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. That thing's going to be amazing, bro.
Yeah, dude. So what they announced today, and hang on, I'm just getting it here. Let me get a decent picture of it. The way, and you know what? It's reasonably priced, I think.
How much is it?
It's
It's $500.
Yeah, that's not bad at all, bro.
No.
That's not bad at all.
So it's Haslab, and here, let me get the picture of it. Why is it not letting me? Oh, fuck you! Won't let me take it this way. All right, I can't just right click on it. Let me just grab the picture and show it to you. But yeah, I mean, but this thing is beautiful. So we'll call it up here now. Now I've got it, and I will put it up. So, have you ever bought any of the Haslab stuff? Like, I missed out on the
No,
Sentinel.
I missed out on the
should've-
Razor Crest, bro.
I have.
definitely
I own
missed
the
out on-
Razor Crest.
Yeah, I missed out on
So
it.
there it is from Star Wars Rebels, the Ghost, or it's now they're calling it from Ahsoka.
Did you get
Yeah.
it, Robert?
You know what? I haven't yet, but
Lael, did you get it?
No, I haven't yet. I haven't did it yet. So I mean, because the thing is with them, yeah, I haven't done it yet.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I will. But I mean, it comes with everything. It even comes with the smaller ship.
dude.
Like, yeah, the compartments are incredible, man. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it truly is incredible.
If it's made by Haslab, it's going to be perfect. There's
Oh yeah.
absolutely it's the most perfect model you can purchase. It's the best model you can purchase, especially for the money, the size of what they're offering, the condition of it, the coloring, the accessories, everything about it. You will never be disappointed in a Haslab product.
Hell no. I saw this today and I was like, wow, even the presentation was cool. It was dope. It was incredible. It was definitely incredible.
Okay, so here I'm putting up the here it is, and you can see the little ship up there in the corner. The way they have this, so I'll just rifle through the pictures.
That was a lot of detail. Oh, I love the inside habitats.
Come on, dude.
Oh man, look at I can't remember her name, but
Hera Zendula.
yeah,
Hera.
Zendula, yeah, and she's there, right? Her kid's got to be around there somewhere.
Yeah.
Look at how cool that looks.
I mean, the sleeping bunks. By the way, the last time I looked at this, it had 3,000 backers. Now it has 4,669 backers.
Not surprised.
They're looking for 8,000. So this is just in a day.
They're gonna get it, and it's.
I mean,
46 days.
look at this. Even the weathering on the floor panels and stuff.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, look at that. How could you not want that? Come on.
It does look great.
Hell yeah.
Even just alone from, let's say, having, I don't know, was this in the Clone Wars?
No, it was just it was in Rebels. Was it?
Oh, in Rebels.
But
Okay.
it did make appearances. It did make appearances like in Revenge of or Rise of Skywalker. You know, and stuff. So it's, I mean, look at this. Come on.
Look at that, bro.
Does Chompers come with it?
Yeah.
Yay!
Chopper's gonna be with that. Yeah, bro. Look at that.
Look at the gun rotates.
You got the gun rotation, bro. You got the.
Oh, there he is.
Bro.
With
Chompers.
Yeah, I mean, look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, bro. Look at that. That's phenomenal, bro. Like, come on, man. Come on.
It's
Oh my
28.
gosh.
It's 28 inches wide too. So that's over 2 feet wide, and it's 30. This thing is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, because I should have got that sail barge. I missed out on the sail barge. I didn't get the Razor Crest.
Yeah, I missed out on the barge too. I feel bad about it.
I mean, just look at how cool that is. Come on.
Bro. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It looks that good. It just looks that good, bro. Like literally that good. So they're gonna definitely make the funding on this one. It is.
How cool. Look at how cool that is. All the weathering. I love all the weathering. I mean, they can do that because of the size, but this is so cool.
Hell yeah. And it's smart that they're doing this before the debut of
Ahsoka.
Yeah, we're really lucky to get something before the show.
That's what I said. Why? Look at it. Look at how this opens up.
Yeah.
They should have done. Well, I guess they couldn't have done this with every show, but they could have thought about doing things like this before, each show.
Yeah. They did this. Hot Toys basically announced that they're doing, 1/6 scale figures for, Ahsoka. They did that. I think it was like yesterday or something like that, 2 days ago. Yeah. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot gonna be going on for that show.
So the convention season's in full swing. You got Star Trek in 2 weeks where they're going to show X06 is going to show more stuff. Probably they're teasing Nanjin's teasing the Wrath of Khan figures, so they'll have them there. They'll probably tell us more about what they're making, and it's all good. All good. There's a lot to be excited about. So Lael, did you see Oppenheimer or Barbie?
No. So Toya saw Barbie today. I was working, so she took the kids, to go. I had a couple clients here, so she took them, and she said she liked it. But I know we both want to see Oppenheimer, so I do want to see that.
I haven't seen either one.
You haven't seen either one of them yet?
No, because I've been so crazy working and then going back and forth. I went to the convention yesterday.
Yeah.
Even though I can get to San Diego, I can get to the convention in 2 hours, where it used to be like 3.5 or 4.
Yeah.
But where I live now, it's like 2 hours.
Yeah.
All right.
Did you see Barbie?
I didn't see Barbie, but I did see Oppenheimer, and I did a review a few hours ago with Darth Plato, a 2.5 hour review of Oppenheimer, and it wasn't enough time. Like, there's so much in that film that's fantastic that you could talk about it incessantly and still not cover everything. It was based off of the Pulitzer Prize winning novel Prometheus, based on Oppenheimer's life. And certainly I've read about half of the book. I've listened to it on an audio book. And from what I can gather, it's a fantastic adaptation, of what the book is, which is, like 90% of it right there. But there's also the notion of the fact that the movie has no real errors in it whatsoever, in the sense of the visuals and the sound, which is incredible. The sound and visuals are characters in this film. The casting is perfect. The performances are perfect. The screenplay is phenomenal. The costumes and the settings, the entire production is perfect. Even the references to historical figures and fact, I thought were second to none. This is the film of the year, and they're going to win tons of awards for this film. And I was just so impressed with how much chemistry this cast has with one another. And certainly it's an enjoyable watch. It's a 3-hour film where you're not ever going to be bored or tired from watching this. There's the use of black and white and color film purposefully done. The sound editing alone will win them an Oscar for this one. I've never had, to be honest with you, you can watch the Trinity Experiment and a film called Trinity and Beyond, which William Shatner narrates, from 1995. It's a documentary, and you can actually go on Wiki and see the Trinity Experiment, but you're not going to see the Trinity Experiment anywhere else depicted like you'll see it in Oppenheimer. It is maybe perhaps the depiction that is listened most closely to the eyewitness accounts and recordings of the day of the event. And it certainly is a film that's very unique. They decided to not just use the theme, obviously, of the Trinity Experiment, but some other themes in the film that run concurrently along with the race to get that Trinity Experiment to work. And I think it was very cleverly done. I was concerned about it when you first are introduced in the beginning of the film. And then once you realize what Nolan is trying to do, he actually builds you up to a climax of 3 different stories, and there's a payoff for each one. It's like a triple orgasm. This film is perfect. It's really a huge accomplishment. And Nolan is so damn humble about this. Darn, he's freaking amazing. This is Cillian Murphy, honestly, has to have so much attention paid to him for this role, where so much is focused on his expressions and emotions. I mean, more than half of the film, he's practically in every scene for a 3-hour film. Boy, talking about a commitment and having to constantly be on point about everything. Emily Blunt is spectacular. Matt Damon is spectacular. Kenneth Branagh is spectacular. I didn't see a bad performance once.
I heard that Robert Downey Jr., they said that he should be nominated for.
He's going to get a Best Supporting Actor for playing Strauss. And to be honest with you, I think this is his best performance ever. I think that this is the one that is going to, and certainly he was fantastic in Iron. I'm not necessarily compared to anything else. I think Robert Downey Jr. is a shoo-in for Best Supporting Actor, and Cillian Murphy will get Best Actor. And perhaps some of the ladies in here will also get Best Actress. Who knows? But honestly, I haven't seen a film like this in a long time. I can't stop talking about Oppenheimer, gentlemen, and everybody in the chat. It really is exactly what we want to see in a film. I think for many people who perhaps are not interested in science, they may be interested in it now because they make quantum physics look incredibly cool, because it is. And at this time period, they focus on a lot of things so that you can understand it. If you've never even picked up a book or know anything about what the quantum level is, let's say for atomic particles, nuclear physics, if you know nothing about it, it doesn't matter, because they've got you covered. And there's even one part where I don't even know if it really happened, but they decided to show you something that was very important as they were doing the experiments. And they had a bowl that looked like a fish bowl and a cup that looked like a wine glass. And they were like, hey, these are the two things we have, and this is, if we fill this up, this is exactly how much radioactive isotopes we need, more or less. And I thought, what a great concept to show somebody. You know, obviously, it wasn't just for the room, it was for you. There was so much done for the observer in this film. Certainly seeing how important it was for the individual's experience to get a reaction. I can't stop talking about this. I can't.
What's amazing, what's amazing is I mean, obviously the Barbenheimer thing did its job. I mean, and that was what I loved, is that was an organic thing that the internet, that social media brought us. All the memes, the people doing the artwork, whether it's AI generated or people did the artwork themselves. I love the fact that it's helping a movie like Oppenheimer. Here's the funny thing about Christopher Nolan. I think he's a world-class filmmaker. I don't think everything he does is perfect. I really didn't like Tenet. Tenet is probably the greatest looking and most well-made movie, well-acted movie that I've ever seen that I didn't like.
It was the sound. Like, for me, it was the sound. The sound drowned out the conversations in that film. It was the sound was too high. Yeah.
I couldn't buy the premise of people traveling backward through time by going backwards as if they were on a tape. You know, like you're literally moving backwards and you see people going backwards and cars are flipping right side up again. I just don't think that that's how time travel would work.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
The only thing that I give to him the simple fact that if anybody who could make an attempt to pull this off, it would be Christopher Nolan.
It's an amazing. So that's why I watch it. It's a movie I should love. I should love this movie.
There's so many things that went against this film. Again, for me, it was the sound, bro. I couldn't get past that sound because it just wasn't. You couldn't hear some of the conversations because the music was so loud.
Yeah, you know, it's funny with him. I understand where he's coming from. You know, he's trying to create, and me, Mr. Verisimilitude, I get he's trying to create a reality. But the thing is, nothing in a movie is real. It's all made up. And if people speak, if the audience can't hear, like, if you watch a movie like Close Encounters, at the beginning of Close Encounters, they find these airplanes in the desert. And you're in the middle of a sandstorm, and even people are screaming like, "Are we the first?" You can hear them over the roar of the wind and the sand. If somebody speaks in a movie that isn't like muffled, like to crash a plane, you know, if somebody's talking in a movie, we as human beings, we're following the story. If you cannot hear, and I know this from being an editor and sitting in on movie sound mixes, if you can't hear what somebody says and they're talking, it's the most annoying fucking thing in the world. Because you ask yourself, why are the filmmakers showing somebody talking and I can't hear them? And so voices, even in the middle of a sandstorm, you hear people. They make you hear people. They do a sound mix where you can hear somebody speaking, even though it's like, whoosh, you know, you still hear them talk. Christopher Nolan's like, well, in real life, no, you couldn't hear somebody talk. I'm like, then don't have them talk where we can't hear them. It's a fucking movie, dude.
Yeah.
Just like in Star Wars, yes, they're fighting in the vacuum of space. You wouldn't hear anything. But in a Star Wars movie, I would not want to watch a battle over the Death Star and not hear any sound. That would drive me mad. I'm like, I don't want to watch. So it's all affectation. It's all made up. So let me hear speaking. Now, I've heard that there's no problem hearing anyone talk in Oppenheimer.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
No problem in hearing anybody speak in Oppenheimer. And I can even go further to say that the sound and visuals are a character in the film. Rightfully so. They wanted you to be guided by the sound. And it builds up and it's beautifully done, I think, done with incredible care. But there are also subtle nuances where you'll see something, a light or some kind of effect, which I understand are almost all practical. And then you might even hear a scream. I mean, I was even quite shocked. It's not easy to necessarily translate or adapt the weight of someone's worries in a film with this subject matter. And it's also not necessarily that easy to be sympathetic with all of the characters, considering what this film deals with. However, I think they do hit the mark on it. And perhaps one of the most startling things to me is how you start off at the beginning of the film, just like Oppenheimer, is with the impression that things are a certain way. And by the end of the film, you do understand what has happened. There's even a line in the film that says, I wonder if the truth about this matter will ever come out. And of course, as you're watching it, you kind of smile and you say, yeah, it's coming out now.
It's gonna
Oh
come
my
out,
gosh,
yeah.
this is great. I certainly think that when you're trying to make a film of such historical significance, the challenge is going to be whether as a director or even as an editor, you're going to make the decision as to what people will see in the final cut. And I think that for a film which deals so heavily in quantum physics, a field that most people are not fond of, they will be amazed and drawn in by the hypnotism of it all. And it is hypnotic because it's essentially explaining the atomic age, and will be the only film that might explain the atomic age to millions of people, millions of students in classrooms. Of course, they're going to fast forward in the nude scenes, but millions of students in the classrooms will see these films and be so amazed at what's actually happened. No book could explain this truthfully to anyone, and it is a Pulitzer Prize winning book. I'm simply saying no history book can do what this film is doing. Gentlemen, I am so pleased as punch. I can't wait to go back and see it. I'm going to go back and see it with Mikey Lito. I saw it in IMAX, but it's an IMAX at 70 millimeter. I guess it's different from regular.
Yeah, it is.
One in New York, and it's sold out. And Mikey Lito and I are going to go and see it in the 70 millimeter IMAX. But I saw it in IMAX, and what a beautifully shot film. It's stunning. It's stunning. Congratulations to the production team, the cast, the crew. It really is amazing. This is the type of film we've been waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, it's what's really interesting is when someone like Martin Scorsese talks about comic book movies flooding the market and real cinemas. I understand what he's saying. Is what the thing about comic book films, as much as I love a great comic book movie, and I do, the problem with comic book films is they're rather, like you could say that Road to Perdition is a comic book movie, and it is. It's based on a graphic novel. Blue is the Warmest Color, a film that I love. Yeah, it's about a same-sex relationship with two girls in high school. Yeah, but that's not why I love it. But that's also a comic book adaptation. So there are a lot of various different kinds of graphic novels that have been adapted into cinema. But the problem is what we want is more movies like Oppenheimer. And to a certain extent, I mean, Barbie, I would say, is in the same category, because we're not getting adult-oriented dramas about historical events, because they're not. Now, look, I understand that Oppenheimer has been memeable, so it's overperforming at the box office. Its tracking is almost 50% more than what they thought. But if that's the case, good for me and good for all of us that we're going to be able to. Because when Christopher Nolan made Dunkirk, Warner Brothers was like, okay, you've done so much for us. If you want to make a movie about an event that happened in World War II that is a very British event, it's not something that's really known to the Americans or around the rest of the world, we'll let you do it. But that movie made $500 million.
Yeah.
And like with Oppenheimer, he's not spending $300 million to make this movie so it can earn out. And the fact that Oppenheimer is doing so well, I think, is really important for the cinema. When everybody's on strike and everyone's trying to figure out, like, why are we $5 billion or $50 billion in debt like Warner Brothers is? And they're probably pissed that Oppenheimer, they because of day and date, because of Tenet and what Warner did, what AT&T did to releasing movies day and date. I think it's great that Oppenheimer, that it's a great film. I expected nothing less. When I go see a Christopher Nolan movie, my expectations are through the roof. So it's glad. I mean, the people I trust, the people that have really liked it, have really liked it, and I've heard this from a lot of people. So I think that's really fantastic, and that's what we want. That's what we want from the movies, man.
I also think that it could be adapted into a play, obviously not 3-hour play, but I could see this going on tour as a play and people wanting to see this. A lot of the scenes and shots are incredibly interesting and thought-provoking. And this is obviously a film that deals with the atomic age, which is the norm for us. Nobody here pretty much has not existed during the atomic age. We all know that as a reality. But I think it is very interesting to even consider what it might have been like for our parents and grandparents to be alive at a time when
Around
the
that time,
atomic
yeah.
age was not the norm. It really was a different manner of thinking, a different approach to what was possible. Even now, let's say 70, 80 years later, our understanding of what's possible of something like this, the possibility of fission or fusion, whatever way you want to describe it, is a reality for us. But at that time, it must have seemed like such a miraculous thing. So incredible. How did they do this? It's absolutely fascinating, and a frontier that I think a lot of people, let's say younger people, will find incredible, because it's not common knowledge. People aren't commonly talking about nuclear weapons or anything like this. And this film certainly makes you understand how important it is to go into this atomic age that we live in now. And I wonder what the next age might be, Robert and Lael. I wonder. It really makes me contemplative about what will happen in our lifetime, because you and I both, the three of us, know that certainly there are advances in science all the time.
Yeah.
However, this gripped the entire world. Its scope cannot necessarily be measured easily. Can you imagine? And this was another, there's some very important questions, I think. If I were still teaching, I would be asking my students, can you imagine what it would be like to be alive during a war, and what that does to your brain chemistry is messed up once you realize your country's at war. Now, all of a sudden, everything you planned on doing with your life has to change now. Everyone's life is being changed by that. And I think they did an excellent job of trying to portray the impact that may have had, and the mindset of generations of people who are gone, but had to deal with it and also make decisions that none of us would want to make right now.
Well, I mean, what's really interesting too is, like, unfortunately, when we were growing up, the threat of a nuclear annihilation was very real. The Cold War was still very real. And nowadays, I mean, people have an almost, in a way, what I really like about this movie, from what I understand, is it brings home the idea that we do have the power to annihilate all life on this planet within a couple of hours. And that was always,
yep.
People who lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis really thought that they were on the brink of the end of the world. I've become death. And all of that, and the whole, that destroyer of worlds, and the whole thing with Oppenheimer. Look, one of the things I find so interesting about our culture now, and I watch Instagram reels, and I watch a lot of social media posts. It is clear, especially in the West, there is no understanding anymore of how we have a war going on in Ukraine. We have a literally a very civilized country. This is not some third world shithole. Ukraine is a cities and towns, and you basically just had an aggressive neighbor. Whether you say that we brought it on, that this was Putin's response to NATO encroaching on him, and he did say this. He came out and said, if I feel threatened, whatever his reasoning, this was an aggressive action, uncalled for. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people have lost their lives. Whole towns have been flattened. Cities are gone. And we in America are blissfully unaware of this. And we're still arguing our own politics, and let's ban books in Florida, and let's I feel that America has become the most immature country in the world. Our political infighting, whatever side you're on, the way that we're seeing people yelling at each other, and all it would take, one nuclear bomb anywhere, a dirty bomb. If a nuclear weapon was detonated in this country, or something like 9/11 happened, it would so shock the system if people were to see what the results of one detonation, because there's only ever been, Fat Man and Little Boy. I'm not saying kids today, but kids today, our educational system hasn't taught them shit. And you talk to people, even in college, they have no understanding. There's I learned people don't even know who J. Robert Oppenheimer is.
Well,
we all knew who Oppenheimer was growing up.
That's a very good point, and it is very interesting, because in the film, they obviously, the film is called Oppenheimer, and the focus is on Oppenheimer himself. However, they do have Einstein in the film, and I couldn't help but think about how
Yeah, that's when I
everybody
saw
on
that.
Earth
That's
seems to
crazy.
know who Albert Einstein is, but it's Oppenheimer is not as well known. And what are the reasons behind that? And I think that the film kind of addresses some issues as to why that's the case. Oppenheimer became the most popular scientist in the world, one of the most recognizable individuals anywhere. And yet, if you were to take a picture of Albert Einstein and a picture of Robert Oppenheimer, more people are going to know who Albert Einstein is, and that's fine. You know, I think Einstein was wonderful, but it is very interesting to notice that for some reason there has, I'm going to say he's kind of been pushed to the side in regards to teaching and studies in general for maybe the average American. I can't speak for other countries, but it seems like that's what's happened in our educational system.
No,
Yeah.
it's terrifying to me how little people know of even recent history.
But
And I'm like,
that's again because for the sake of the conversation and prolonging a conversation and afraid to give off. The thing is, it's like, it's almost, and I say this for the longest time, like they're afraid of free thinkers, bro, and people who would delve into that and formulate their own opinions. So to restrict people from learning certain things that is highly detrimental is what's happening in, you know, this public school system and basically school systems right now. It's a restraint on a lot of things that people, you know, there's you know, even conversations about, you know, indigenous cultures that people have kept away from the mainstream. You know what I mean? So for something like this with Oppenheimer, they said the best way to really learn about this story is to see this movie. And they said that Nolan has done a good job at really, you know, portraying that. But then it's going to always, for people like me, like coming up through, you know, high school and college and stuff like that, people like, you know, within our generation who missed out on some of this content because we didn't know a lot of this. A lot was hidden. You know what I mean about it. So we're like, well, what the fuck? Like, you know, this movie, you know, now you have to go back and really just measure a lot of what you thought you knew versus what you know now and what you should know. You're going to have to kind of balance that thing out because right now it's just like, you know, I'm surprised. I was even like, I think I was watching Roker and he was talking about John Roker and he was like, yo, I'm surprised that Nolan got away with like a lot of stuff that he got away with this film, because a lot of it and the way the story is told is so unique, so branded and so genuine. But it's like now it's going to cause you to look at us as a society totally different because, again, like you said, at any given time, a button, it's like decisions. The wrong person at the wrong time can press a button that can destroy the world, bro.
well, I mean, you know, even growing up, and I remember in 1983, there was a movie called The Day After that Nicholas Meyer, who directed Star Trek 2, he directed, and it was about how would a nuclear strike affect, you know, its town in Kansas.
Yep.
And
I remember that.
they didn't want kids.
TV, right?
What's that?
Made for TV?
Yeah, it was a made for TV movie.
I think
They
it's
didn't
on
want.
NBC, yeah.
There was
Watch.
all this controversy about whether kids should be allowed to watch it.
Yeah.
You know, and I read and wrote an article for my high school newspaper about why wouldn't you? I mean, we live in this age. Why is it see, this is what I don't understand. Why is knowledge of any kind inappropriate?
Restricted. I know.
It has to
bro.
be contextualized, but now we're saying that, and by the way, no other country around the world is saying that children shouldn't have knowledge. You know, I'm still allow innocence to be preserved as long. I'm not talking about sexuality, but I'm talking about, you know, when I was in the sixth grade up till I wasn't thinking about my own sexuality. I wasn't thinking about my gender identity, and because that came later. I was learning reading, writing, arithmetic. I was learning about all different kinds of things, and I was slowly being made aware of the larger world around me.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's like there's an overemphasis on things that are detracting from a real knowledge base and how, as a human being, you navigate the world. You know, especially if you look on social media, everybody wants to join their own tribe. None of that means fuck all. They want us to be thinking about gender identity and all this other crap because that's the thing that distracts from, while everyone's arguing about all of these other things, what's really going on, what really matters is the world around us and how Americans are being completely diverted from understanding anything that's really going on.
Yeah,
and
isn't there something right now where I guess the Supreme Court or the courts are discussing whether or not they should leak out the possibility, or not even a possibility, but leak out the information about extraterrestrials and like UFOs, the information that they have on that, and whether or not they should tell the public? Is it like whistleblowers who put that out there?
There are whistleblowers. I mean, here's the thing.
Yeah,
I would argue that, and I don't know. I haven't heard definitively.
Yeah.
But if you listen to people that, because obviously my dream in life is to find out that the extraterrestrials are real. You know, that I would love nothing more, not to fuck an alien. I just like to meet an alien. I mean, if they were hot, it'd be great. As long as my equipment's, as I get older, if my equipment still works, I dip into that pool. But the idea of meeting, can you imagine how profoundly altered humanity would become if we learned that there was a technologically advanced civilization out in the universe?
Yeah.
I mean, people think that people are so distanced from that idea, but that idea would so fundamentally change humanity that it's hard for us to even conceive, because the way we conceive of aliens is the way they're on Star Trek or the way they're in Star Wars, but like, for instance, the very fundamental notion, like, just I'll throw this out there. If we discover that there is a civilization that is more advanced than we are, the very questions of our existence, because all of Western civilization, whether you believe it or not, comes out of the Judeo-Christian tradition, comes out of Islam, the Abrahamic religions. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, all come from the same place. All come from the idea of the one God. The first question, the foundational question of humanity, we would ask a technologically advanced civilization, do you have a God? And if you have a God, it would obviously be this one God of creation. Well, what if they didn't? And what if their image of their God was very, very different to what ours was? This would be so, I mean, it seems weird to say, but it would be so shocking to humanity, because would we reject that? Would we just then, because there would be people that would say, these creatures are godless heathens, and they are not our friends. I mean, we would immediately be at odds, because the very basis of our civilization, because we know so little of the universe.
Some things we don't understand.
We don't understand. We have so if we're confronted with beings, the question that would arise all over the world, all the great religious leaders would be on the front lines. Are they like us? And if they don't believe in the God that we believe in, do we trust them?
Exactly.
And our own ignorance of the universe would be our biggest hindrance. And would we immediately come onto and think about it, if they're more advanced than we are, and they have propulsion systems that can do what we are seeing, there's no way to defend against them. There's nothing we can do. We don't possess anything that would make us a threat to them. So suddenly they would become a threat to us. We now are we thought having the atomic bomb was bad enough. But maybe it's so hard to wrap your head around it. Most people don't give a fuck until it happens. And
but still,
but that's why they don't. If they truly have evidence, and a lot of people say, like, if you listen to Bob Lazar on Joe Rogan, a lot of people say that this technology is reverse engineered technology from stuff that was already here. Like Bob Lazar has said, it was an archaeological find, and it's from a long time ago, and it can all be reverse engineered. Maybe it's stuff that we've made. It would still prove that there's evidence of extraterrestrials or even an early human civilization. Who knows what it is? But the reason they don't want to tell us is because it would destroy our civilization. more so than atomic bombs would really blow up our civilization. But what happens? We have people banning books in this country. What would happen if we're confronted with a civilization? We have irrefutable proof that here's a civilization that doesn't believe what we believe religiously, which is whether you're a religious person or agnostic or whether you're whatever you are, you can't deny that Scripture is the foundation. You can't understand our culture without a working knowledge of Scripture. You unless you know the Old Testament, and you should read. I encourage everybody to read the Quran. Everybody should read the Bible, both the Old and New Testament. Whether you believe or not, you have to understand that these are foundational documents that have provided our entire civilization. Asian cultures have other books which should be read as well. These are foundational. These belief systems have dominated human behavior since we came out of the trees. And if you don't understand that, and it has nothing to do with whether you are Jewish or if you're a Muslim or you're Christian, you have to just understand from a foundational standpoint how it's organized our culture. That if we found out that these aliens, it would shatter the belief systems. It would shatter our scientific belief systems, our cultural belief systems, our religious belief systems. Our civilization would be shattered by this knowledge, and we wouldn't know what to do. That's why they can't tell us if there's truly. And if it gets to the point where these whistleblowers are coming out, and it could be that no one even knows where this technology came from. They just found it. Yeah. And they've been reverse engineering it and testing it and using it. But if they found it, it would still prove, but then we wouldn't know who built it and what they believed. So that would be maybe even better. We have the technology. We don't know anything about the people who made it, just that they were more advanced than we are, and we couldn't ask those questions. But if they didn't believe what we believe, we would be in a world of hurt.
That's the thing, like knowledge like that, because especially knowledge of something that's like, so far advanced, it's not something that would destroy us on like a scale of a nuclear bomb, but dividing the country, the frustrations and culturally dividing us, that's something that would happen too, because then again, you would have individuals that would try to claim it for the, or whatever.
Let's monetize it. Who's going to own it? Big tech. Oh, it's ours.
Yeah, like who's going to own it? Who's going to, and that's like, come on, man. Like,
well,
that's why it's like being careful. If you're going to basically give off or provide that information, how careful you have to necessarily be before you do it. Because it does take, it takes a level of thought. You can't just tell somebody, okay, this right here has existed, beyond, time that we even know. It's been here since the dawn of man, or it's been here before. You can't tell people that shit, because they're gonna be like, yo, wait, what? Like, and you've known this for so long, you've discovered this, and we're just now finding out. Like, man, or it's like you'll have those people be like, you know what? I told you so. I knew it. I've been trying to tell you this for the longest time. It's crazy, bro.
Well, and now like the funny thing is like, and I'm sure Oppenheimer deals with this. Yeah, you've seen it in the clip. Well, there's a slight percentage that we could destroy the world. Matt Damon's like, well, a slight percentage. Yeah, it's theoretical, but and when you're dealing with like and here's the crazy part. We have this technology, and we dropped it. America dropped it on the Japanese. 2 bombs. It ended World War II, but we had that technology, and we used it. And admittedly, it was small yields compared to where our nuclear weapons are now. But the fact that we have these nuclear arsenals, that somewhere in our minds, we felt the need to build our nuclear arsenals up to fight communism. Like we have mutually assured destruction. I mean, do kids today even know what MAD is? That doctrine that, well, you can't use nuclear weapons because your opponent will use nuclear weapons and you'll destroy the world. It's a zero-sum game. You can't. I mean, we grew up with Dr. Strangelove in 1964. War games in 1983. Even our popular culture dealt with the idea that there are people in the world that understand acceptable losses. Like, okay, we could, if there's a nuclear war, in the United States, we're going to lose New York. We're going to lose Washington, D.C. immediately. We'll lose Chicago, Miami, Dallas. Take your pick. The biggest population centers will be gone in minutes after this kind of a conflagration can happen. People today they can't even conceive of what that means. Like one nuclear bomb dropped in New York City means tens of millions dead, and the financial center of the planet Earth gone. It would cause the loss of one city would cause such turmoil. And then where are you going to be? Are we going to launch all of our ICBMs? I mean, and that we lived through all that. Where it was in the 80s, it was a very real possibility that this could happen. It's been that way. In the 60s, it almost did happen.
Yeah.
During the Cuban Missile Crisis. And some people say, and if you look at these whistleblowers, the thing that freaked me out the most was this reporter said that they haven't even announced this, and I can understand why, but in his reporting, he's found out that in various countries in the world, these sightings of these UAPs, they've been able to turn off from a distance our nuclear facilities, weapons facilities. They can turn them off, which leads me to believe that if those UAPs are real, they're here because I'm sure that what we don't know is that you would detonate a nuclear device and the space-time continuum is affected and people can read it. So if, they talk about Roswell and all that, the Roswell crash, that whether it's real or not, bunk, that was post us dropping the atomic bomb. That was post the atomic bomb. It was after Trinity. It was after Fat Man and Little Boy. So that would be, if that's true, if we announce ourselves in Star Trek, it was like, oh, they have warp drive, so the Vulcans see us. But in reality, it might be that, oh, these stupid primates, these one step away from apes, are playing with nuclear weapons now. Now we have to go and deal with them. It could be something along those lines. That would not surprise me, because we don't know fuck all about the physics of the universe. We're constantly finding out that what we believe is not right. It's not true. The Webb telescope that we've put up there that has blown away Hubble is making these. I am sure that the Webb telescope has already found out things that they can't let us know about the universe. Like if they pointed that thing and found a rich galactic civilization that had the empire or something, they couldn't tell us that.
Well, how could you explain it to anybody anyway? Even if you did have a photograph of it or a video of it, it's still so unbelievable in concept that most people would that it's fake. They'd say it was fake news or something.
Yeah. And what's so funny about it is it would be like, let's say we discovered a thriving intergalactic civilization, like the Federation, like Star Wars or whatever. It would probably be so far away that, like, imagine if we knew, say, that 1,000 light years away from us, there was or the next galaxy is like I think Andromeda is 4 million light years away. If we discovered that there's no way we could ever get there, or they could ever come here, ever. It's just you can't traverse those kinds of so like you said, if we found out that they were there, this teeming civilization, and we knew that we were never ever going to be able to speak to them or meet them, what would that do to our civilization? What if we knew that God was out there 4 million light years away, but we could never converse with our God? We knew he was there, or it was there, she was there, they were there, whatever. We knew that, and what would that do to humanity? Right now, we know we can talk to our God, because I can do it whenever I want.
What it would do? What it would do is the push for by any means. What I mean by that is it would, full speed ahead. Let's develop technologies. Let's develop something that's going to get us there. Like money. Like, can you imagine, like literally the amount of money, trillions of dollars would go into discovering these places, which means more impoverished conditions for those who can't really afford certain things already. Like it would be, it like literally mental, emotional turmoil would actually get cast across this world, like over shit like that.
That's
bro,
why they
because-
can't. That's why they can't let us know if they have
Exactly. It's the need. It's the need. Like it creates that need to want to know more. Like it's embedded in our inhuman. It's like the human condition, the need to want to know more. Like literally, that's just how it is. So if you tell them something, they'll okay, what else do you know? What else is out there? What else aren't you telling us?
Well, that's.
You know what
I mean, that's the real. That's the floodgates open.
Yeah.
If they were to admit that there's, and look, I just assume that there's lots of things that we don't know.
Yeah.
You know that because I mean, look at if you just scroll through a bunch of TikTok reels for a half an hour, there's nothing that's going to show you that leads you to believe that anybody needs to know any of this. They just let those people be blissfully unaware, whether you're making cat videos or taking the latest YouTube challenge or whatever. The knowledge that the governments of the world or people are probably sitting on, it's better that nobody knows them.
Yeah.
But that's what they're worried about.
Well, that's, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Robert.
No.
That's something that I'm going to say about this film is that it certainly doesn't. Of course, this is a time that we're talking about, what, 70 to 30 years ago, the time span that it covers. But this is a film that does put you in the room. It puts you in the room while these decisions are being made, while these discussions are being made. And there's something very interesting. You talked about, obviously we know that there will be physical effects that has occurred from the use of atomic weapons. We know this. But a very interesting thing that was said in the film, and I'm not quite sure whether Oppenheimer actually said it, but I thought it was very interesting when he talks about the psychological effects of all of this. And certainly that was something that was needed. I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong. I'm not debating what should have been done. This is not what this is about. It is about the fact that these psychological effects will have a profound influence over the behavior of people. And, even, there's a line in The Age of Innocence where Edith Wharton says that their entire world can be destroyed with a whisper. And I think that is quite true and quite relevant here. And I also don't think that it's impossible for everybody to completely understand what exactly is happening because, I think at that time, this was, let's say the setting of the film. For the most part, people got their news from, either the movies, as Darth Plato and I were talking about, from the movie reels, from the radio. They didn't have
movie tone news. Before there was television, movie tone news would give you how the war was doing. Yes. And it was all propagandized, but it was still, that's how people would learn. Or
the newspaper.
And the thing is, when you'd read the newspaper, again, the newspapers were not about profitability. Just like if you watch like The Insider, the movie The Insider with Russell Wigan, the whistleblower for Big Tobacco, the CBS News, it never made money. But CBS kept it going because their news organization, which was considered sacrosanct, that provided Walter Cronkite and gave us 60 Minutes, those news organizations, the rest of CBS supported the news that they could deliver the truth as best as they could. We don't have that anymore. There are no more, journalism is dead in this country because it's not profitable. And all we're getting is, you read about how AI is going to be writing news stories, that people aren't going to be writing news stories. We're not going to have entertainment journalism, which, by the way, is all by design, because with all this information out there, it's amazing that you would think with the internet, the byproduct would be that there's so much information out there that we would all become elevated in our thinking, like, oh my God. But we're watching over the course of the last 20 years, certainly, this country has been devolving. We've not been evolving. We've been devolving. And I think by design, but it's also kind of sad to watch because there's so much information out there that, like, I'm surprised when people ask me, like there are so many times when I use Google And just to find out, like, if somebody asks me something and I don't know the answer to it, that I can just use Google and figure it out. And people don't think to do it. I'm like, if you want to know something, you just Google it and you can find out literally anything,
what it is.
anything immediately.
What are you saying, that people don't even bother to find out information? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes
They're
they
not doing research?
I think that a lot of
they don't.
I think a
They
lot of people
sometimes
don't.
don't.
I think a lot of people don't even realize sometimes, because I talk to people, I'm like, if you have a question about something, like if I want to learn, if
I'll be right back, guys. I'll be right back, though.
Mhm.
I'm going to get the jacket real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. What fascinates me is I use editorial software, Adobe Premiere, Final Cut Pro, Avid. If I want to learn how to do like animation of a title coming in, a 3-dimensional title that's going to be flaming, that I have to use After Effects on or something, it could be whatever it is. All I have to do is type in whatever shit I need to learn how to do on Final Cut or Premiere, and somebody on YouTube has already made a tutorial how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm astonished by this. I mean, literally anything you need to know, whether it's farming, whether it's building a house, shelving units. If you want to make a working air conditioner, like, I mean, I watched a guy make an air conditioner out of a ice chest, cutting into two things, having pipes come out of it, and made a beautiful working air conditioner. You can find anything. That's why when people ask me stuff, I'm always like, oh, I don't know. And sometimes, I'll be honest, I pretend I already knew it. And I don't. I mean, that's why I try and be honest about it, but I'm like, I don't know.
It is interesting what you're talking about, but I think that the idea of even looking at mental health at that time period, the idea of even looking at mental health now, Robert, you remember the 1980s when Carrie Fisher came out with her book Giving Up the Pink, and she talked about mental health, and people were astonished. How could anybody admit to having, mental health issues? And she was very, very frank about this. She was no holds barred about it. And I was quite amazed by her candidness. But the idea of even talking about it at the time that Oppenheimer was made was unthinkable. They didn't even contemplate the notion of how a person might have PTSD from an attack or anything. Even the soldiers themselves, who were incredibly shaken by all of this, certainly was something that we were aware could happen, but was not the focus of it. And I think that this film even manages to address that. My goodness, if we even suspect or even go so far as to tempt the notion or even suggest the notion of what could happen to another nation in this way, it was unfathomable at the time. They didn't know. There was no way you could verbally explain to another country what would happen. It was impossible.
Well, yeah, because it hadn't been done before. They hadn't even before they even detonated, before the Trinity test. They didn't even know what is it going to look like. like it was all theoretical. They had the math, but they didn't know.
So, with that notion, Robert, how would we explain time travel to a person today? It's very difficult to address this because we don't know. Psychologically, it might mess some people up. You time travel and they're not okay, and then all of a sudden there's something wrong. We've seen some great science fiction films. I think there was one where someone was sent up into like the space station, and they were left for a while. They come back and he's all like lost it, and does that happen to our scientists today and astronauts? No, because astronauts are like the most incredible, geniuses out there. But the point is that we don't know what's going to happen to the rest of the world. The rest of the people who want to do this space travel, who get introduced to it. Oh my God, we can do space travel. I can't handle this. I can't. No, leave me alone. Like there's going to be a certain amount of the population that will freak out from this. And the psychological effect may be even greater than the actual effect of taking the time travel itself.
Well, I mean, I think one of the byproducts of the nuclear age is the idea that we could actually destroy the world. Like that was something that never existed. God could destroy the world. the apocalypse could come, and the great creator of all things could the Book of Revelation, the four horsemen of the apocalypse or whatever. That was a notion that could happen. But the idea that we had actually built a weapon of any kind that had the power of the nuclear fire unleashed, there was nothing analogous to that in all of human history. So no one had any understanding of what. I mean, they knew they were building a big bomb, but even what radiation would do, and they theoretically kind of knew about it, but they didn't even know like what was going to happen to the air.
Right. And, of course, there's that song I always think of, I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire. And I think about Megadeth, and they show like there are a lot of their songs focused on, sort of these nuclear explosions and what would happen. And, if there's a new way, I'll find a better way, better work this time, kind of a lot of comments about what was going on. But yes, they really did not know if this was going to be it. And I almost fathom to go so far as there's somebody who's looking at some of this theoretical stuff and perhaps might even say, gee, we better leave this substance alone or this experiment alone. This one could be the one that really destroys everything. I mean, it's terrifying to think that notion, or at least that area of nuclear physics, quantum physics, does exist, but it has to, Robert, because they must have made advances from the film Trinity and beyond. That's just up to 1995. Only goodness knows how far or how extreme the effects will be. We know it will do a certain amount of damage, but that's an estimate, right?
Right.
In other words, they'll say, oh, it's 50 kilotons, and I'm thinking to myself, well, wow, that sounds like a lot. It probably could spread more, will have a much more devastating effect. There's going to be fallout. There's going to be all sorts of other things, but it might even be more. And I actually, when I watched Trinity and Beyond, I wanted to just watch the documentary. And as I said, it's narrated by William Shatner, and it is very kind of, he mentions it's very informative. It was also very depressing, because you realize out of the 300, maybe even more, at least just the United States, not to mention other countries, have been detonating, this stuff. And I realize it's like, we really are deep into it. We're balls deep in.
Well, I mean, that's why Iran's nuclear program, when you had Russia and the United States as the only nuclear powers, and the world was on the precipice of what, can you imagine what you were like in France, or during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the rest of the world had to sit there wondering, are these two other fakakta countries going to cause the end of my life? If they started shooting nukes at one another, you got a farmer, in say Basque country in Spain, who's got his wife and his kids, and he's, growing olives or whatever, and has a great business, and he has to sit there and watch with bated breath, holding his breath every night while the Cuban Missile Crisis went on, day by day by day. Are these two fucking assholes going to go to war? And if they do, there's nothing I can do about it. And that's where we're at. And you have countries like Iran. If Iran were to get a nuclear weapon, they've threatened to use it against Israel. And the reason being is because ultimately the Jews, the Arabs, the Abrahamic conflicts that have never been, Isaac and Ishmael and all that, they've never been resolved. There are people that feel that that's an okay thing to do on this planet right now. There are people that would unleash this kind of power on other human beings because they don't think those human beings deserve to live. And I'm not saying Iran's going to do that. I'm just saying that kind of hatred exists. We see it all the time. And if you have a nuclear weapon, that you can actually detonate and use, what does that say about us? I mean, I think what's really interesting about America is we're the only country that's dropped one. We're the only country that's used a nuclear weapon, too, against a foreign population. And if you actually look at what happened, because we don't really know. If you think about it, do you know exactly what happened on the ground in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? You don't. You have to look it up. All the information's there. But when you start looking up what actually happened on the ground to those people, and those were small nuclear devices compared to what we have now.
And they filmed, let's say, Trinity. For all practical purposes, a certain portion of it was visible with the cameras and the technology that they had at the time. But the actual application for the purpose of, let's say, destruction, which is what it was launched for, is a very different outcome in the location that it's at. So certainly we have eyewitness accounts, which are terrifying. And certainly, it's probably something that's undescribable. That's why I think it was really important that this film was made. And as I said, I'm not questioning right or wrong, just to be aware so that people know what has happened and what the situation was. There's even a scene in the film where they talk about where they plan on possible targets to drop, the devices. I'm going to call it device.
Fat Man and Little Boy.
Yes, I know it's the Enola Gay. Like I know that part of it.
Wait, Enola Gay was my favorite techno song in the 80s.
I don't necessarily. A lot of times, I kind of. I'm not going to name certain parts of it. For example, it turns out that this film dealt a lot with a focus of the popularity of communism in the 1930s and 20s and 30s. And certainly that is a topic that we know about. But can you imagine? I mean, in this film, it is very interesting the way that they have depicted let's say the party or the existence of the party here in the United States at that time. And I think that it's very interesting because the idea of it being as popular as it was, I was completely unaware that there was enough popularity that it would even make, there would be the possibility that many people would be interested in it. And of course, this is their choice.
Wait, hang on. Interested in communism? Wait, interested in what do you mean?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. No, there was tons of American communists, just like.
And I think it's interesting that they chose to depict that in this film because it's not easy to depict, but I think that they did a great job with it. And it certainly is something for discussion because it gave an excuse to many people, let's say many years later, to use it against them, to abuse them. And, they were kind of left trying to defend themselves in many situations. It was used as a tool once again for manipulation. And it's addressed in the film in a brilliant way.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that because I know that we have is the HUAC committee, the House of Un-American Activities Committee. Is that what I know?
Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly how it's represented, but let's just say that that's one of the themes in the film. It's got so many good things.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, just like that, how many people know? Like, we grew up knowing exactly what the Enola Gay was, not just because Orchestral Maneuvers sang a song. Yeah. Like, I as a little kid, I built a model of a B-29 Stratofortress because I love World War II airplanes, and I loved that particular plane because it was a cool bomber. But everyone knew that the Enola Gay dropped those bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And you knew what the Enola Gay was. I'll bet you if you were on an American college campus right now and walked up to 20 people and said, "Do you know what the Enola Gay was?" People would go like, "Who is she?"
Now, it was named after someone's mother, correct?
Yeah.
And of course, that's the two names that we may not hear very often these days. But the planes themselves were remarkably built to bring the soldiers back off from these missions. Also, I think it's very interesting that they decided to put artwork along the sides of the planes that were specifically, not always, but specifically geared towards getting them back in the sense of, we know that you're going to war, but we want you guys to come back.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were pinup girls. They were the beautiful, whether it was Betty Boop or whether it was, the pinup girls of the day. That was what the men, that was what they were fighting for, to come back to.
And it wasn't always the case, but many of these pinup girls were drawn, like sitting on a bomb. This is how it was depicted, and certainly, it's not meant to be in an insulting manner because many of these men flew to their death, so they sacrificed their lives in war, and we owe a lot of debt to these men for doing this. But it is very unique artwork in that sense. And certainly, I think culturally, that also, when you see a plane like this, and we see these, bombers, Robert, you said you liked the Enola Gay bomber or whatever. I don't know the
It's
model.
a B-29 Stratofortress.
The B-29 Stratofortress, and we enjoy models. The three of us are collectors, and we enjoy ships and things like that. So, I know a lot of my best friend who
Superfortress
builds those planes and things like that in models. But the point that I'm making is, once you see the pinup girl on the side of the plane, and maybe she's holding a bomb in her hand, it is a very, it's a message. It's a message that, it's like, we acknowledge the danger. We can't go overseas with you when you're facing this danger. We're essentially sacrificing your life. But we'll be here back in the States waiting for you to return safely. I mean, it is very interesting, the notion of putting that on the side of a plane, which of course we couldn't do today, but was needed. They felt it was needed. And there might have been a psychological reason for that. So, I think it is a very interesting approach looking at it. The final thing I'm going to say about the film, and I promise you I'm not going to say anything else, but there's just so much to say about this film. The final thing I'm going to say about this film is that it addresses the need for intimacy. And I think that is very interesting because, I just read a book by Weir called Project Hail Mary. And in the book, this scientist...
How great. And by the way, that book, Project Hail Mary, is by Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian. They're going to make it into a movie with Ryan Gosling. It is one of the most entertaining books you could possibly read, and I would encourage all of you to go out and get Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. Don't read what it's about. Don't read anything about it. Just go get Project Hail Mary and read it, or get the book on tape or whatever and listen to it.
And, I did a review with Stubble. Thank you, Stubble, for recommending the book. I really am enriched from reading the book, especially if you're into science. But my point is that even in that book, in the long space explorations, they talk about the need for intimacy for a person. And it's almost as if, in this sense, the need for intimacy was so important for Oppenheimer. And this is not a judgment call, but, it really affected his mental state. And, I think that was appropriate to show, because these individuals who were involved in this program are human beings. There's even parts where they talk about when they were building Los Alamos and they wanted to allow the families to come along. And the soldiers, one of the generals was like, you can't have their families come. And he goes, well, I don't think anybody will come if you tell them they can't bring their family. You're going to take them away from their family for what could be a year or two. No one will go. No one will want to go to that. That you can't have that. And so I thought that was maybe one of the most interesting parts of the film, is that there's still that desire for intimacy throughout this entire film that continues in different ways. And so they didn't have to put that in, but they did.
Well, it's important.
And I'm so happy. Thank you.
I just want to show an example. Here's a B-29 with artwork. It's not the Enola Gay, but it's a B-29. That is an actual painting on an American military plane. That's on a B-29 Superfortress right there. Can you imagine, like, today, there would be a fucking outcry about this? Oh, the patriarchy, this is so exploitational. Here's another picture.
Okay.
I mean, these are actual American military aircraft from World War II, and it's hard. It's funny because now you'd see, oh, this is so offensive. These are men that are going off to war, men, not women. That's what they were fighting for. Nowadays, again, our civilization has so devolved that we've forgotten what our humanity is all about. I mean, fighting for coming home to see beautiful women. Look, if I'm in war, fighting to see a beautiful pair of titties again in my life, that's sometimes enough. That's motivation enough.
It was a young demographic of soldiers, right, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Who were what is called drafted into this war. Many pulled from high school, right?
And people enlisted. It was you're fighting the the war machine of the Nazis, people enlisted as soon as they could. You know, many people that had never kissed a girl before. It was a different time. And now, I mean, that's why I say in certain ways we've devolved, because we've evolved in certain respects, but we're not allowing for human biology. We're now denying on every level. And I'm not just talking about trans rights or anything. I'm talking about men biologically. What are we hardwired to do? Same with women. What are women biologically hardwired to do? Our civilization used to realize that we are animals that are products of many thousands of generations to evolve to be a certain way. But and civilization is supposed to help us rise above our biological programming. But now we're skewed. Now we want to pretend that there's no biological programming, which is, to me, that's not good either.
Well, you know something, I swear to God, this is the final thing I'm going to say about the film. There's a part, Matt Damon is in the film. He plays a very famous either admiral or sergeant in the Army Corps of Engineers, who was integral in this whole, the success of the Trinity experiment. And there's one scene where Oppenheimer and he are going around the country trying to recruit scientists to come to Los Alamos to help them in getting victory, in this experiment. And the scientist is like, yeah, I don't think I'm not interested. I don't know why I should be interested in this. And I don't think any scientist would have said this, or I could be speaking a little bit out of context in what he was saying, but he wasn't interested in it. It was not necessarily the type of typical offer. You would get a lot of money and you'd get, a fellowship, and, there would be a lot of payoffs for being involved in something like this. And he was like, I'm going to turn it down. Doesn't seem that important. And Matt Damon's character says something like, you should be interested in it because it's the most important fucking thing in the whole fucking world. And he says exactly like that. And it was like, yeah, I guess it is, and I think it was interesting because that certainly was not a scene that I actually believe happened between a scientist and Oppenheimer. I think it was for the observer, for the viewer.
Yeah, I mean, when you're telling a story like that, you have to be able to make scenes and distill ideas down into, because a lot of life is boring. Hitchcock said, drama is life with all the dull bits cut out. And this is the real Leslie Groves, and he was the leader. This is who Paul Newman played in Fat Man and Little Boy, and who Matt Damon is playing in Oppenheimer. And he was from the Corps of Engineers, and he was overseeing the Manhattan Project. And so that's who the character. And again, every Oppenheimer is based on all real events. So I would hope if people are taken by the story, they go back and delve into what actually happened. Like the Trinity film that you're talking about, the documentary, Roland Joffe, who directed The Mission and The Killing Fields, did direct Fat Man and Little Boy, where Paul Newman played him. So there's a lot of stuff to go out and find out. But I think what you're saying really excites me, that this movie is grappling with these existential issues.
And I also, and I'm sorry, Robert, and
no, go ahead.
I swear, that's the thing I'm going to say. I really want to get both of your opinions on this film next week. I really need to hear it because, I'm a woman and I'm looking at it from a woman's point of view. And, I have very different views from the way a man will look at this film. It's the truth. It's the truth. I'm a woman and I'm different. So I'm really curious as to how men are perceiving this film, because, it really does depict a lot of what I would say the sacrifices and the incredible accomplishments of men also in the film. So we don't necessarily see a lot of that today in films. A lot of focus is away from sort of male accomplishments and the role that men are playing.
Let me ask you this. What's really interesting, and I haven't seen people bring this up, I'm sure it'll come up in the next week when people have seen the movies, but the idea of Barbenheimer, the Barbie movie, from all accounts, is rather anti-male and anti-patriarchy. And on the other hand, Oppenheimer is all about that. And like, you could probably say that Oppenheimer is just an example of how men are going to destroy the world, and Barbie is going to there's, I mean, this talk about destroying the patriarchy again. There is no. I'm not a person that necessarily believes in a patriarchy because our roles were delivered to us by biology. I mean, the way humanity developed, men had to care for women because women had to give birth to the rest of the species. You couldn't have women out fighting on the front lines while they were pregnant. You know, they had to be protected. That was just something that comes from the animal world. It's something that evolved, and we want to pretend that the patriarchy suddenly is this, all of a sudden it's this awful thing that happened when really it was a product of our biological forces. And it's interesting that these two different movies came out at the same weekend, and yet I'm waiting to see when people are going to start writing op-ed pieces about what the two of them mean together as an experience and what they have to say.
I'm doing a review with Cameron Pasha tomorrow about Barbie, and I do just think that it is very interesting is that, you know, Barbie is a fictional character. And I'm not downgrading the significance of it. I love Barbie. I love Barbie. But I think I should mention that I feel that for me personally, that after I saw Oppenheimer, I couldn't stop thinking about it because, you know, I knew about the sacrifice that everybody had made, that whole generation had made in an attempt for peace. This is the motivation there. And, you know, there's very few of that generation even still alive who can speak on behalf or even defend themselves, let's say, for a circumstance that I said is unfathomable to be at war and to have to deal with that. So, you know, I think that this particular film is also their voice in a sense. And I can't compare the two films. I think Barbie's just meant for you to have fun and nothing in it should be taken seriously at all. However, if you were watching this and you love Barbie and you took it seriously and this was, you know, you're like the most important thing, good, enjoy it, have fun. For me, I can't do that. I just want to have fun with Barbie. I don't want to think about anything. I want to see all the hot male stars in it dancing, doing their little dances and wearing their cute outfits. You put them in nice looking outfits and things and see them and let's go to the beach. Like, I want to have that fun. And then that's a form of escapism for me. And it has nothing to do with the real world for me because I don't want it to. Oppenheimer is the real world that no one wants to talk about. And it will be a brutal, let's say, realization for many people who may have been pushing it aside. That silent generation that's gone. Most of them are gone. Most of the men, right, guys? Most of the men who went over who were in their 90s, right? You see,
the greatest generation, they're gone.
And there's no one to talk on their behalf, and this film does that and more.
Yeah, well, I'm looking really forward to this. I mean, it's nice that the way you're talking about something is what, you know, it's what excited me about cinema in the first place, that cinema could deal with these things in a way that every time a movie like this comes out, it makes people much more aware on a global scale that these things even happened. It's which I think is, and you know, when Damien Chazelle's movie First Man came out about Neil Armstrong, you know, people forget because we don't have nowadays. We make fun of captains of industry or people that are trying to. I mean, Elon Musk has become a very divisive person in the culture, but SpaceX has really altered the way we can travel into Earth orbit. You know, and Tesla stock and all that. The problem is we focus more on Elon Musk as a person as opposed to what his companies are doing or what the technology is and where it's all going to go and what does it all mean. You know, and it's weird. I think that what I miss from the modern age, especially the modern social media age, is the philosophical of all of this. And when you get it, it's either people are talking about it as being good or bad. But I would rather, on a show like we have now, we're musing. We're not here to judge. We're just musing over topics, whether it's action figures or Oppenheimer. You know, we're here to muse. I'm not here to be, that sucks or this sucks, fuck these people, fuck that. We're just musing. We're not here to offer definitive this is either right or wrong. We're just, what I love about what we're doing here is we're just talking about these things and having conversations about them and allowing other people to chime in and say what they want to say and hopefully have conversations about all this stuff. And I like the fact that we can go from talking about the Haslab Ghost, which, by the way, I forgot to point out that there are stretch goals. So there are stretch goals with the Ghost. You can get you can get Rebel figures if they get up to like 11,000, 14,000, 18,000. You get 3 figures. You can get Ezra, carded figures too. But that's what I think we need. I really wish we could see more of that, rather than it's either the libtards versus the Republicans.
Can we even acknowledge, we don't have a problem doing this, but let's acknowledge the sacrifice our parents and grandparents made. They couldn't do whatever they wanted to do with their life. This was a huge sacrifice. This is not an easy undertaking. This was not a joke. This was not anything like that. People's whole lives were changed. A lot of people died so that we could be here and have our lives today. That has to be acknowledged. That has to be made aware that happened, and no denials about it. It was a big event that was worldwide effect. No one was unaffected by this.
Oh no, the entire world was American life as they knew it ended. I mean, the entire country, everything about it, whether you're here back home, whether you were overseas, the entire our lives were devoted to World War II in some way, shape, or form, no matter where you were. And can you imagine today if we were on a war footing and immediately they invoked selective service and everybody between the ages of 18 and 35 were drafted? What would happen to our cult? People, I'm not going to be drafted. I mean, it would be turmoil. The thing is, in World War II, everybody thought they knew they were facing an existential threat, and everyone went and signed up. Sign me up. It became the patriotic thing to do. Everybody wanted to serve.
And you had sons at that time who really admired their fathers, and had something to prove at that point. You had an era where, men were, prone, and they were, treated in an aspect of, what it meant to be a man. And, basically you're not only just, honoring your country, but you're protecting your family at that point. For most.
And other people's families.
Even for those, basically for us, for, those who have ethnic background, like my forefathers, like my family members and people who basically fought in the war. For them, it was not only just basically, there was even more, just proving that you belonged in a space where you can fight for a country that was built, off your back. You know what I mean? Like, just certain things there, those particular aspects of it. It becomes, when we talk about war and we talk about World War, 2, 3, to come, if something like that was to happen, it's such a divisive conversation because of where it started, and where it could potentially end. And like I said, when we talk about divisive or divisiveness, us being divided, this has been a conversation. This has been something that's been going on for so long. It's just been heightened. It was even heightened more during the pandemic.
Absolutely.
It was.
And we haven't had. Oh, sorry.
No. What were you gonna say?
Well, we haven't had the draft since the 60s.
Yeah,
it was since the Vietnam War, and now we still sign up for selective service. So we've had an entirely volunteer military since, since we pulled out of Vietnam in 73, 75, we were finally totally out of there, but the fall of Saigon was 73. And so we pulled out of there, and we've had an all volunteer army for 50 years. It's been 50 years. And so we don't have no generations have any understanding of what it is even like to be drafted. There's nobody, unless you're a Vietnam vet and you were already going to be 20 or something. So people that were like 70 and over were drafted. So how many people even who fought in Vietnam are still around talking about what it was like to be drafted? There's nobody in common conversation that could even probably tell you. There are people that could, but not a lot of Americans have had the experience of even knowing somebody who could talk about what it's like to be drafted. I mean, imagine if we went to war and tomorrow it was engaged, and every single person, every single kid who was 18 years old, how many parents would be like, well, my kid's not going. You can't take my kid. I mean, you would have half of America revolt. There would be no, nobody would say, well, yes, we have to go fight the good fight. Half the country would say, fuck no. I mean, it would immediately, the protests in Vietnam, and because kids today don't know that so many like college students protested the war. You know, they don't understand what the counterculture was like in the 60s. And I mean, I think it would be can you imagine with social media what the firestorm that would be lit up? And it would show that it would really show that what does patriotism mean? Because the people in this country now, and I'm one of them, they take it all for granted. No one is thinking about what we owe our forefathers and what we owe the freedoms that we have here. I mean, today I was listening to somebody talk about how in California, they're talking a lot about reparations to African Americans. We weren't even a slave state. And this guy who's at the forefront of wanting reparations paid, and there are compelling arguments in both ways, but what he was talking about it was so far removed from the idea of reparations out here. It was such a weird thing to listen to, and I'm like, wow, there's a case to be made because of generational wealth. You know, as you know, Lael, Black America was denied generational wealth. Talk about World War II. We had black soldiers fighting for this country on equal footing with white soldiers. When they came back from World War II, they couldn't avail themselves of the GI Bill because they were black. The GI Bill, which allowed people to go to college for free and got money, black Americans who fought and died for this country, the ones that came back, were denied the very things they were fighting for because they were black. And they still fought. I mean, these are the things people talk about. To me, when you talk about things like reparations, that's the kind of conversations that we should be having, because that directly affected black families till now.
Yeah, the conversation of reparation goes deep. It's
but in
because
terms of
I understand on so many different levels of that conversation, because there are some valid conversations when it comes to reparations. I just think that this is a discussion that we've been having for so many years and something that's been in demand. But I think, you know, it's a level of seeing the wrongs and how you can make those wrongs right. And I don't think that even still right now, we're not at that point. Like, and it's going to be hard to get to that particular point. So I understand the conversation of reparations from an angle, and because it's a weighted conversation to have.
It is. I shouldn't have said. I was thinking more along the lines of this about coming back.
No.
War
That right there is really, I want to say, the factor of those, and here's the thing, because I dealt with this a few weeks ago. And the person, I guess, didn't really understand where I was coming from. I didn't really bother explaining it, but I have no, for me, I am, I'm not hiding the fact that I am an anti-war person, that I don't support war in any means, and that some wars that have basically been fought, or wars of greed, attrition, all I don't. It's just certain spaces where I don't belong in that line or that zeitgeist of conversations. So I stay out of it, and I make no apologies of it. Someone asked me what I did for the 4th of July, and I strictly said I don't celebrate the 4th of July. I don't. And I have reasons why I don't. That doesn't mean that I'm anti-America. I just don't celebrate the 4th of July.
Well, the great thing about America is you don't have to, and that's why America is so great.
And you don't. But I was told that I'm anti-America, and because I said, and I am very open at the simple fact that I am an activist, and I don't have a problem with that, because basically if I see wrong, I'm going to speak out against it. But I was told that I'm anti-America, and I don't belong here, and if I don't like it here, then get out. And that this person was going to go to any lengths to out me on social media or this, that, and the third, all because I said I don't celebrate the 4th of July. That was just all I said. But I see that, and when I see that person and people like that, it's just like it's a sad space to be in, because this is what's going on right now, bro.
Well,
Like
this is
what.
but
Yeah,
this
go
is
ahead.
what I talk about. This is the immaturity of our culture.
Yeah,
This is the immaturity of our civilization. And I would say something like this. I mean, when it comes to World War II and something like the GI Bill, and your parents can speak to this or as well. Here was the problem: the American middle class was basically created by the post World War II generation. People coming back from World War II, nesting, building families, building the middle class. Black America was denied this. And they were denied this because the GI Bill that helped everybody get on their feet after World War II was not, black soldiers were not allowed. So they missed out an entire generation of American people, that American citizens that were black, lost out on the ability to create their own middle class. And then you have in 1960, I think it was, the welfare state was built. And those two things derailed, because if you go back into the 30s, black families in America were prosperous. You had things like Black Wall Street. You had big communities that were entirely destroyed and never had a chance to come back. And so if you know your American history, which people should, they wouldn't say things like that to you. They wouldn't say things like, "Oh, you're un-American," because you don't want to celebrate the 4th of July. You have to, and I feel like we become so dumbed down that that people go from 0 to 60 and make these stupid blanket statements without understanding context or history. And it's dangerous that we have an uneducated population when we have the most information available at our fingertips in history. And yet people are willfully staying ignorant because it's become almost a team sport to do so. This freaks me out, because I grew up in a different world. So did we all. We grew up in a different world that was a little bit more sane, where people were not so tribal and like it's your team and my team. Like, I can't remember. Yeah, there was always arguments between Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah.
But I used to listen to like Republican commentators that were interesting, and I learned a lot about. I'll give you an example. When I first moved to LA and was a runner, a PA on movies, I had to drive a lot. When I worked for Altarian Studios, the summer I worked for Altarian Studios, I want to say 90. When I worked on Army of Darkness, the Swamp Thing TV series, and the movie Sleepwalkers, I was driving 300-400 miles a day. I listened to a lot of Rush Limbaugh. Now, what's interesting, people say, what? Now, you have to understand, on radio in the morning, drive EIB radio, he was drive time, a 3-hour block of politics. Where he had
Contract with America.
Yeah, and it was all really, it's before he went nuts, really. And I learned so much. I learned so much about, and I would go home and read about what I had heard on the air. I kept a little notepad sometimes in my car, like, I got to look this up or find this out. And that was only in the early 90s. And then I remember I hadn't listened to, and I went back and listened to him again, like, what happened to this guy? You know, and playing to this bass and all this. But we have lost that impulse, and part of the reason is because we used to have great newspapers, or we had CBS News, and we had these news organizations that prided themselves on the truth. You would have even writers like Hunter S. Thompson, who were writing these exposés for Rolling Stone magazine, were doing a lot more journalism than is going on today. And I feel like our country really has fallen in terms of our public education system. I've always said that the first line of defense for this country is an educated, a smart, and healthy population. And we are failing on both counts. And it drives me insane. Because I thought at this age in my life that we would be living in a much more enlightened age. And I feel like over the last 20 years, this country has completely devolved into tribalism, and it's not helping anybody.
Well, and that is very true in many areas. And I personally am hoping that Oppenheimer will open people's eyes. And
that's what a great film does.
Was made here. It was a tremendous sacrifice. There are a lot of people whose souls paid for wartime, and to have the peace that we have now, more or less, even now. And It was a group effort of Americans. Yes, it focuses on Oppenheimer, but the entire country was at war. It was a group effort. And, mainly it was men who were soldiers going over to foreign nations, sacrificing themselves. And if they came back, many of them didn't come back whole. It was a tremendous effort that was put forward, and that needs to be acknowledged, certainly. And I think that the film does make you aware of it, but it's also the notion of, once again, this psychological effect of feeling at peace because a person is denying facts that actually happened. That's not peace, that's just denial. This film, I think, forces the individual to address the atomic age, and it also forces the individual to think about Oppenheimer, not necessarily right or wrong, but a figure that was so important, had such a profound effect on the outcome of the war, because, it could have gone the other way. The other side could have figured out the bomb first, and the outcome would have been dramatically different.
Oh my God. And that was another thing. I mean, it was a race against time.
It was, and they do a great job of showing that with the sound editing and everything. Like I said, this is not a judgment on whether right decisions were made or wrong decisions were made. I think that if we're looking at this biography that had so much information in it, to make a compelling story, to have 3 storylines running at the same time, to build you up to that climax, and then also to have a payoff at the end for every single one of those 3 sections, it was remarkable. And it is true that for an artistic, I give Nolan an artistic license, perhaps everything didn't happen in those exact orders, but for the purpose of the film, you need to show it like that. But let's just go ahead and acknowledge the men who were so instrumental in this. You guys are great. That's what I was going to say.
Well, listen, we're approaching the end of this, but there's some super chats and we haven't gotten to them.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought about that. I've been talking and chatting, and I can't stop talking about this film. But yes,
but right, I love that. So let me. So Tucker Flynn sends in a super chat and says, "I went to the Irvine Spectrum yesterday to see Oppenheimer in 70mm, and the projector failed." So I just saw Barbie and saw Oppenheimer at the Chinese today and loved both. Barbie's better. Don't hate me.
Now, the Chinese theater does have a 70mm, Tucker, right? That was one of the 19 screens in the United States that has the projector, the 70mm IMAX. Lucky you, in such a historic theater, too.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Kaz Graphics, the official cheesemonger of this channel, said, "Just saw Oppenheimer. It's epic, and I need some cheese."
I would love some cheese right now.
Me too, especially the stuff that Kaz Graphics always sends, Beecher's handmade cheese. Rebel Sky says, "Hey, King and Sire Burnett, Empress, Emperor Lael, blessings to the fan royalty crew. I bow. I hope you have a good week. Thank you for all you do and who you are." That's very nice, Rebel Sky. Ricky B says, "Rob, does your snowspeeder come with a crushed and bloody DAC in the back?" No, you have to provide your dead co-pilot, your dead gunner. I'm going to call Yost about that and be like, "Hey, man, where's the dead gunner?" But no, you have to provide that. Mista 47 has renewed their PGS Hero membership. By the way, I want to remind everybody there is a member call tomorrow at 1 in the afternoon.
Pacific?
1 Pacific. 1 Pacific. Oh,
okay.
Wait, are you supposed to go on then?
I'm going on at 6 p.m., 3 p.m. Pacific.
On this channel?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because, it's a member. It would normally start at 11, but I can't because I'm on a different stream.
Oh.
Yeah. I won't. That's why I pushed it to later. Well, you know what? Maybe it'll only last for 2 hours. I'll have to get off. It's not going
to last 2 hours. It's going to be like 6 hours.
No, I can't. It can't be 6 hours because I have a 6 o'clock. I'm on Anthony's channel at 6 o'clock.
Pacific?
Yes. Yes. So here we can work that out. We'll figure something out. But it was always going to be a member call on this Saturday.
Yes, but you're usually done by 6 p.m.
But you could push it to tomorrow because I won't be on the channel at all. There's no Let's Get Physical Media.
I have to ask Cameron if he's available.
Yeah.
And if he is, I'll push it. But
well, we can maybe move something. I just can't start it at 12. I mean, I can't do 11 because I promised I'd go on a different stream.
I understand.
Scott Bartholomew says this week's Strange New World sucked again. You know what? I can't even. It's like I feel like Star Trek Strange New Worlds. You know what? Somebody pointed this out in a review I read. They pointed out. They said if you want to see how a prequel is done correctly, they pointed to Better Call Saul, because Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad work incredibly well together. And that if you're ever going to sequelize a show or prequelize a show, to look at the way Better Call Saul dovetailed with Breaking Bad is the perfect example of how to do something like that and really make it work. And I totally agree. The thing about Strange New Worlds is there was never any intention to make Strange New Worlds a prequel, just like there was never any intention. They say it. Discovery and Strange New Worlds were designed to replace the original series. And nobody will say that, but that's what they were. That's because
That's what the intent was.
Yeah, the intent was to replace them, and eventually that's why you bring in Kirk, and because the people today, there is a thought that the original Star Trek series is archaic. Those shows, I don't care what they say, because they've screwed around with established canon so much. And by the way, I think, and people are saying, oh, I really like Christine Chapel because we didn't get to know her in Star Trek. Yeah, because she wasn't a main character. I mean, she was a secondary character, just like Uhura and Sulu and Chekhov. They were not main characters. And Scotty. They were all secondary characters. And on this show, they purposefully took secondary main Star Trek characters and elevated them to the main show, which I think was problematic to begin with. They weren't that show's characters, but now they've done that, and that's how they're erasing the original series. That's their intent. And it wouldn't bother me so much if they weren't such shitty writers. And I'll say it, the writing is bad. It's bad science fiction, it's bad action adventure, and last night's episode was a retread of a Next Generation episode called Night Terrors. It's almost the exact same plot. And it's not even as good as Night Terrors, and Night Terrors was a terrible episode of The Next Generation. So it's like, why do they choose? They have 10, and next week is their crossover with the animated series. So it's another time travel episode, and they're crossing over with Lower Decks. It's like, here's what I want from Strange New Worlds. Every episode is either a prequel, a requel, or a sequel to something the original series did. I would love to have seen Strange New Worlds tell me all new, all different stories. All they ever do is riff on old Star Trek. It is the most uncreative show I've ever seen, and it drives me insane. I don't understand why they do it. They haven't made an original show yet, especially this season, and I don't get it. But that's, not to be a hater. I find the show tremendously disappointing. And again, metaphorically, it's everything wrong with America, right in one TV show. I'm telling you. Maddie Daly says Barbenheimer was awesome. Best double feature I've ever seen at a movie theater. Both Cillian Murphy and Ryan Gosling deserve Best Actor. I love both films.
Absolutely, they certainly do deserve Best Actor, and I do want to add Robert Downey Jr. I believe that this is his best performance ever, and I certainly hope he gets a nomination, if not a win as well.
Michael says, off topic, what do y'all know about BB's Kids?
Bebe's Kids.
Bebe's Kids, the movie with Faison Love? Is that what he's talking about? Back in 30 years ago?
Bebe's Kids, it was a character. It was
Yeah, but Faison Love was the star of it, right?
Faison Love. It was oh man. Damn, that's way back.
It's way back.
That's way back.
Faison Love. I always say Faison, but it's Faison. Baby's Kids. I did I saw that movie, but it's like 30 years old. They saw it once. One time. I think it's a Paramount movie.
Baby's Kids.
Baby's Kids. But it's like it's an adult animated comedy.
Yeah.
I only saw it once. I can't remember anything about it. Just that Faison Love is in it because I did a project with Faison Love. That's the only reason I remember that.
Yeah.
And then Michael goes on to say Meteor Man or Blank Man.
Man, Blank Man was funnier. That's the thing. Like Blank Man was fun. Blank Man.
Tough.
That's blank because Meteor. Because here's the thing, Meteor Man was
kind of dumb.
If you compared to both Blank Man, if you compare Blank Man, I would say put it this way: if you had to put them in the same universe, then Meteor Man would be your Superman, and Blank Man and his sidekick would be Batman and Robin.
That's hilarious. I totally agree with that. By the way,
that's the best way to use it.
I just got Hollywood Shuffle on Blu-ray. I know nobody.
Oh my god!
I'm just gonna tell you.
Oh my god!
Criterion sale, Barnes and Noble, 50% off.
Oh yeah,
Hollywood Shuffle.
Hell yeah!
Because it's great. Peter Cunnington says, I'm going to see Oppenheimer in 70mm IMAX in London at the biggest IMAX in the UK next week on my trip.
Yes.
That's great. Zachary Zabailey says, I love Batman Begins, but for me, Nolan's films are technically great, and he's a technician, but they lack the warmth that Spielberg has. They're cold. Well, I don't disagree, but I think by definition, I mean, that's kind of what Nolan's known for.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think I don't know if Spielberg could have made a movie like Dunkirk. You know, his World War II movies, he's made 4. So he made 1941. He made Empire of the Sun. He made Schindler's List, and he made Saving Private Ryan. Actually, and he made War Horses World War I, not World War II. So, and I think the way he made World War II movies is different than what Christopher Nolan did. But what's great is that's why they're great, because you can have different strokes for different folks. But yeah, I think he's pretty clinical. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think you're correct. But that's interesting, Zachary. Now you're going to make me think about this. Sebastian Sanhueza, is that how you pronounce it correctly? Says, hey, Rob, long time no see. Super happy about Oppenheimer's success. But at times I wanted the discourse mixed with a little bit of American heroism with a bit of Kurt Vonnegut or Grave of the Fireflies. So, yeah, so you wanted a little bit of dark irony, and Grave of the Fireflies is one of the most depressing movies. It's an animated film, too, from Japan that deals with the nuclear age, and I'm sure it would make a great watch after Oppenheimer. Man, Grave of the Fireflies is rough. It's rough, but great. But, yeah, I could see where you'd want to give a little Kurt Vonnegut in there. Dr. Fauci's prison butt sends in a super chat and says, communists did infiltrate the American government and entertainment industry from 1900 to 1955. Why does Hollywood continue to deny its complicity in communism in this country? You can see its fruits to this day. Well, I don't think they do. I mean, Warren Beatty's epic movie Reds was all about American communists. It's an incredible film. There's communists today. You can find them on every college campus. Everybody's talking about collectivism and all that. But you know, communism is a political ideology, a social ideology, and there's a lot of people that believe in communism. And they're as soon, you know, Karl Marx or reading. There's a lot of people that believed in those kinds of things, believed in those. And I don't think communists were necessarily infiltrating the American government. There were just communists that are Americans. You know, it's an ideology, and they were definitely there. There was a lot of people in Hollywood who are communists. And, you know, it's just that once at the end of World War II, when the Russians became our enemy, that's why they called it the Red Scare. You know, and I guess Oppenheimer deals with that too. And that the Red Scare was definitely real because the Soviet Union, we saw the rise of a communist state that became a world power that rivaled the United States. I mean, when did America, was it 1919? Was that when the Russian Revolution happened? The modern day, 1918, 1919? Something like that. So, you know, and there's communists even now. And there's a lot of them. And there's still people think, you know, if only they applied communism correctly. Good luck. It'll never work. The 20th century proved communism it could work. No, it can't. Because communism denies one thing. It denies humanity the ability to excel. There are no heroes in communism. There's it's too bad, but it'll never work. Sonny Dominguez says, Rob, have you eaten? Cue the young women. Stop that, Sonny. We've kept this relatively clean. I haven't even asked about the sex scene in Oppenheimer.
There are two wonderful scenes. The first scene is when Florence Pugh shows off her stunningly beautiful body. She is nude. You get to see her topless. You get to see freaking...
Could you see everything?
Murphy.
Everything.
You don't see pussy, but you do see her breasts. She's lovely, just natural, and I think it's so natural, the same way you would be with a partner. I think it's done in such a loving way. Yeah. He gets on top a lot. It's wonderful to see this. I think it's stunningly beautiful, and it's not sort of presented as in like, okay, we're just going to do everything for one position and we're in two separate beds. No, this is Oppenheimer saying, "Hey, let's go in the back while everybody's at the meeting. How about you and I go over to the side and come on, I got something to share with you that's very special." And she's incredibly coy and wonderful in this. And then there's another very interesting scene that a few people have mentioned that they didn't like. It's a scene where Oppenheimer is being questioned by a group of people who are there to humiliate him, and they bring up this affair and many of the affairs that he's had. And by bringing it up, it puts it on public record. His wife is sitting right there. Mm-hmm. And in the scene, Florence Pugh is in the scene, and she's literally nude, sitting on top of Oppenheimer as if they were having sex. A lot of people were made comments about this scene, but for me, my interpretation of the scene is that it focuses quite a lot on the wife, who's played by Emily Blunt, and it is a scene of humiliation for her, because now everybody knows this is 1960, I think. Everyone knows that her husband was having this affair with many women, and they talked about it in extremely explicit nature of what happened during the affair, and was this while your wife was at home? And at that time in the United States, it would be devastating to have everyone in the country know what was going on. It really was devastating to her. I felt that nude scene was meant to represent that, because that's what she saw. She saw this devastating thing. She knew or suspected different things, but the last thing she expected to happen to her was to go into this interrogation room and have them talk about his, let's say, activities, and have it be a public record. What a nightmare for anything like that you don't want everyone to know. Now the whole freaking world knows.
Yeah. That's uniquely American. If you were in France, they'd be like, who cares if she has a mistress? We don't care. I mean, exactly. That's, Americans, this is the thing. You're dealing with the man that created the atomic bomb, but let's talk more about his affairs. Because that's what we understand. We're a puritanical country that we can't deal with whatever someone's personal peccadillos are. I'm worried about whether the world's going to be destroyed, and you're worried about, wherever I find respite, whatever I need, to get me through the day. Imagine if he was smoking marijuana instead of getting laid.
Let us not place judgment on couples. And as I always say, I don't like to comment on anybody else's marriage, because that's between them. I don't want to comment or know anything. That is their personal business. No one has a right to be commenting on anybody's, intimacies or whatever they're doing. It's none of your business. So don't pretend like it has to be your business. It is not. And I stick by that. I don't judge people. I just, that's the way it is. I am not here to judge anybody. It is their relationship. Let people live their lives.
I agree. Not the American way, though.
I know. Culture
Wars Diplomacy says, I remember when people could actually get into the San Diego Comic-Con. Well, you can. You just have to plan. You just have to plan ahead of time. But I understand what you're saying. It used to be very easy. But then there were a lot less people who wanted to go. That's the problem. Ricky B says, my Uncle Paul was a bomber navigator during World War II. His plane was shot down. He spent most of the war in Stalag 18. The
Oh
same
my
POW
God.
camp from the William Holden movie. Paul was a humble, respected man. Yeah, that's another thing that, I mean, there's been movies that have dealt with that. American POWs, Stalag 17 is a famous movie, and then other movies like The Great Escape and all that. That was another part of the war that was, I mean, imagine, shot crazy. Well, we salute your Uncle Paul, Ricky B. Tom Jr. Jackson says, some guy pretending to be Lael on Instagram just sent me a DM and told me to die. I know it wasn't you. Well, I would hope. I mean, how do you know he can do two things at once? Maybe Lael is sitting there insulting you right now,
Well,
Tom. Of course, that's not in Lael's nature.
Yeah, somebody's doing that. It's a guy who created a page.
Really?
He did the same thing. Yeah, he created a page using my, everything, likeness, all that. Well, not likeness.
Did
but
you
use
report that?
I haven't seen it. That's
Oh.
the thing. Like, I haven't seen it yet, but Cam told me about it. A couple people told me about it.
People
It's the
should
same guy.
People
It's the
should
same
report
guy
that.
who basically said that I'm un-American and stuff like that.
Isn't
Same
it
thing.
amazing that a guy that's accusing you of being un-American is impersonating you now and telling people to die?
Because he's insane.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's not exactly American. You know,
Uh-huh.
that's not the
Yeah.
best. That's not the better part of our virtues.
It definitely isn't. But this is the same guy. I had reported him and blocked him when he sent me the message the first time. Now it's if they continue, they're doing it just basically to draw attention. I would advise everybody out there, if you see this person, just report it, but don't give him any attention because he's corny. And I hope he's listening right now. You're corny, and you're just giving me more attention. So thank you for being an asshole and treating people with a level of disrespect. You're un-American for doing bullshit like that, and I hope you know it. And I'm talking to you. I try to be cordial and not say nothing, but you continue. So if you did that, and I apologize for anybody who this person's doing, know that it's not me. You're an asshole. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah.
And
I
if you
second
want to
that.
talk to me and come on my show and we have a conversation, let's do it. Let's do that. Let's basically be cordial and do that. Because I'm not afraid to do it. You're a coward. You're an asshole for doing that. That's rude.
Hell, I'll bring
So
you on
I wanna
this show and we can
basically
have a
say this
conversation.
from the bottom of my heart, and I hope you're listening. Fuck you.
That's my guy right there. Actually there.
Plain and simple. Fuck you.
And I concur. I concur. That's what I always do, is invite people. If you have a problem with me, come on the show. No one's ever taken me up on it either. I'll be nice. Come on the show. That's why we have these platforms. That's American. Come on the show. Confront your accuser. That's what our legal system's based on. We have a conversation. If you don't come on the show, Lael has just invited you. If you have a problem with him, if you don't confront him, you're a coward, and you're the most un-American kind of person there is. So...
And to go to somebody else to message someone like that right there is
to
corny.
Tom Jr.
Like
Jackson, my moderator.
Exactly.
Nicest guy in the world.
That's corny. That is corny. That is corny. To harass anybody. Like everybody in the chat on this panel, like we have discussions, sometimes debates, even people out in the chat. But at the end of the day, we can come together and say, look, we had this discussion. We may disagree. We may have different opinions, but it was aired out and we can still leave, with a level of respect for each other. But when you do shit like that, and this person, whoever this is, and they're only doing it, I think it might be clickbait, but it's not funny. It's not hot. You're corny. You're probably beating your dick right now, listening to all this conversation. I'm just putting it out there because we're musing. You're an asshole. You are. You're an asshole, and fuck you for doing what you basically did. To anybody out there, that you would do something like that is very disrespectful. So fuck you. Good night.
I like that. That was good. That was great. We got to do more of that. Well done. I feel the same way. And I like that you invited him on the show. I do that to everybody who's
Why not?
You know what? It's always I've always waited. I'm like, I would love it if somebody took me up on that and come on the show. I leave an open invitation to anybody who disagrees with you or wants to have a conversation. Come on the show. That's what we do these shows for. You want to have a conversation? Come talk. I'm not going to bite. Our friend RRTNZ says, I joined in randomly at 2 hours and 47 minutes into this stream to find Rob ranting about how crap Strange New Worlds is. Never change, Rob. You're the king and 100% right. And our last super chat for the night comes to us from Sean Hoover, who says, like the flawed men it so earnestly attempts to analyze, Nolan's Oppenheimer is not without its own defects, but it is a triumph, and many awards will come.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I admit that I'm not able to. I went in depth for the review of it with Darth Plato, and I've spoken quite a lot about the movie to both of you, and I'm sure there are some deficiencies in the film. But my goodness, after what we were given in this film, the effort and the accomplishment, I'm completely oblivious to any faults or flaws there may be in the film. I'm sure there are many of you who are more astute and are looking for very specific things. As an editor, Robert, you may notice something. Lael, you may notice something too in the sound. For me, this was virtually perfect. And, you know, and I've watched a few films dealing with this topic. I'm heavy into the science. They didn't knock you over the head with the science. I think that was also very important because the book is very heavy in the science. But I have to say, I just enjoyed it so much. And it's about time we got something that really acknowledges the story and done so well. It's refreshing. You know, movies are back. Movies are back.
They are, with naked Florence Pugh. And that's the kind of movie I engage.
In this, she's stunning. It's natural beauty. It's natural beauty, and I think that is so important to show those intimate moments between people. He needed to have these intimate moments, and so did she. I think that showing that need, the desire, still exists between people. It's so important for us to understand the nature of what these characters are going through. It was almost devastating to both parties. I'm not going to say what happens, but devastating to a point of death for both characters, of not being able to have that intimacy.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's part of it. I mean, can you imagine, on one hand, your life is you're building an atomic bomb, and on the other hand, you're still a human being, and you're still, what is that? When people are doing these extreme things in their lives, you know, I think you have to judge the rest of how they're trying to get through the day differently. I mean,
why do soldiers need to, and this is not a judgment on any soldier, why does a soldier need to have an intimate moment with someone? Well, you know, tomorrow he could be dead. This is a reality. Yeah. This is a reality. I mean, well, let's just be honest about it.
I agree. Now, you kids, it's time to go.
It is.
It's time to go. It's time to set you guys, This was a great conversation again. I love having these conversations. I want to thank everybody for supporting the channel via super chats and tips. I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson for being a moderator. Tom, you are awesome.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much, Tom.
Glenn Mark says there was no mine earlier. I don't know what that means, mine earlier, but I don't know what you're saying about that, Thomas. And then Thomas Logan says Shane Cooper's Maestro drops in December. Maestro is the movie about Bernstein, Leonard Bernstein. What's his play? You know, what's Groot? I mean, not Groot. Rocket Raccoon. You know, why am I drawing a blank? Hangover, Star is Born. That actor, I see his face. Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper is playing Leonard Bernstein. He also directed the movie. So nice. Thomas Logan said Shane Cooper's Maestro drops in December. Oh, is Shane Cooper directing it? Then I guess it isn't. It isn't Bradley Cooper directing it. It's Shane Cooper. Drops in December. Otherwise, Cillian Murphy would probably win Best Actor. Robert Downey Jr. on the other end wins Best Supporting Actor, unopposed. That's what people are saying. So Thomas, I think you're probably right about that. But Bradley Cooper's playing Bernstein. If Maestro, that's the movie. I think it is, which I can't wait to see. And on that note, kids, I will dismiss you.
Yes.
I will send you away. And you know what? I am getting my Cyborg tomorrow. I'm excited about that.
I get my Moon Knight tomorrow arrives.
So, I gotta I'm dying to get my Moon Knight.
Yeah, my Moon Knight finally arrives. Cyborg is actually sitting over there. I'm still filming, so it's sitting right there, bro. You'll love it. You'll love the film.
Oh, I can't wait. I mean, and plus that Vic Stone, all the way back to Teen Titans 1980.
Yeah.
The new Teen Titans.
Yeah,
Well,
hell yeah.
You kids, it was a great show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
That was loads of fun. And I'll
Yes.
see anybody at Comic-Con. Come to Starship Smackdown. The Smackdown is happening as it always does on Sunday and at the end of the Comic-Con, like 2:45 somewhere, something like that.
Yes.
All right, well, I will let you guys go. And
Yes.
It's been loads of fun. I will
Yes.
see
See you
kids
guys later.
Yep. All right. And there's a member call tomorrow. We'll figure out what we're doing.
Okay.
But there's always every other Saturday. They
I know, but it's not so late all the time.
I know. I'm sorry about that because I haven't.
No, it's okay. We'll figure it out. I'll do whatever you prefer, as you already know. So let me know what you want to do.
Oh, we'll figure it out. All right, kids. I'll see you later.
See you later.
And that was loads of fun from the kids at home. Now, no, I'm not going to bring on some randos because I'm going to go on the Salty Nerd podcast tomorrow with Mr. Kadish and company in the morning to talk Hollywood and all those things. So I'm not going to do randos tonight. But I want to thank you all for being here. Another great show. Today was a huge day on the Burnettwork. I did Robservations in the morning. We had King Tannic dropped his show because I was at Comic-Con yesterday, so I couldn't put it up. Did a show. We did this show. It was like a real network today. It was a lot of fun. I want to thank you all for being on the journey. And on that note, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I would say to all of you, have a better night.